These people still don't get it. The fact that Trump is open about not knowing what a blizzard is while having fun at the same time with everyone, that's what makes him so refi- just refreshingly authentic compared to all of these other career politicians. I'm sorry. They just don't get it. They just don't understand. Uh, Tucker Carlson did nearly like 5 hours straight on the TPUSA action stage with the pressure, or 5 hours, I think it was not TPUS action, but he did it with the candidates, the GOP candidates. And I mean, he was well prepared. He put the pressure on all of these candidates and he had specific questions and did research for each of them. He's top of his game, and I'm so excited to see what Tucker Carlson does. Mike Pence did not misspeak. This was the first time an American politician has told the truth. The clear winner of that, I'm going to get into it. It's a family institute. It was put on by Blaze Media. It's a big event that happens before the Iowa caucuses. Vivek Ramaswamy, he was the clear winner. He was crisp. He had concise answers. He had lots of specifics. He It was just a clear contrast between he and the other candidates. Ron DeSantis didn't do what he needed to do that night um, to correct his downward trending polls. Vivek clearly stood out and I think he's going to get a bump in the national polls here soon. And Mike Pence is just done. Mike Pence is just done. Good morning, folks. We have so much to get to. 6:07 a.m. here. It's a Monday morning. You can always text in at 309-451-9299. I'm a little tired this morning. I got to get some coffee in me. We'll get you buzzed up on news, buzzed up on coffee in a jiff here. So don't you worry. First, what do I have got planned? Well, Kamala Harris, she's out there this morning, going viral because she is demanding that the population be reduced. Yes. So in today's episode of Freudian slip or embarrassing gaffe, we'll be talking about this slip up or Freudian slip. I don't know what exactly it was, but Kamala Harris is demanding that we reduce our population. Next, Tucker Carlson, like I said, straight up destroyed all of those GOP presidential candidates. Vivek Ramaswamy, he stood out to me, but he destroyed Asa Hutchinson. I think I'm saying that correctly. I didn't even know who the guy was, so I had to look him up. I didn't even know he entered into the presidential race. So that just tells you what a nobody this guy is. But Tucker Carlson destroys this guy. And he brings up one of the biggest issues in our country with Asa Hutchinson. And that issue is genital mutilation, gender transitioning with puberty blockers for minors. And he talked about this and oh boy, he destroyed this GOP presidential candidate before he even really got any kind of traction. I didn't even know the guy was running. Later, we are going to be talking about this. Janet Yellen, 76 years old, taking shrooms. Yes, there's coke in the White House and there's shrooms in Janet Yellen's bloodstream. So she's the Treasury Secretary, y'all. And she ate hallucinogenic mushrooms before she bowed to this Chinese official. He's the vice premier. So she took a bow, and that was super controversial because people thought that was a sign of weakness. U.S. officials do not bow to foreign adversaries. It is a big sign of weakness. That is a big no-no. And so that happened. And then this report comes out, and it shows us that she was actually hopped up on some sort of trip. She was taking a trip on some hallucinogenic mushrooms at 76 years old. No, it's not a Babylon Bee article. It's real. Now, the Chinese, the CCP State News, is reporting this. They actually reported it favorably towards her. Like they reported it as if it was a good thing. Bizarre. We live in bizarre times, folks. I read that and I was like, "There's no way that's real." And then I was like, "Oh wait, it is real." So there's coke in the White House and mushrooms in the the Treasury Secretary's office. Let's get to this Kamala Harris, her Freudian slip, folks. So, Vice President Kamala Harris, she further tarnished her image this week. During a speech on climate change, she was at some university in Baltimore over this past weekend, and I think maybe it was on Friday or sometime. So she appeared to call for a reduction in population. And why is she calling for this? It's because she thinks that that's going to achieve cleaner air and cleaner drinking water. Okay. Let's take a listen because today we have a very exciting edition of Is It a Freudian Slip or an Embarrassing Gaffe? You tell me. Throw it into the comments section if you're watching live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or we're on Rumble. Throw it into the comments section what you think. Is it a Freudian slip or an embarrassing gaffe? Our contestant is a San Francisco woman who rose to success by checking off not one but two boxes in the Democrat Party's most marginalized bingo card. So say hello to Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water. When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Wow. Whoa. Wow, was that? The White House was very quick to clean this up, folks. So they put out a statement. And folks, I don't think she meant to say pollution, but the White House was very quick to clean this up and claim that she meant to say pollution instead of population. So here's the transcription from the White House. They say, we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles to reduce pollution. More of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water. So that's the official transcription that the WhiteHouse.gov put out there. Oh, was she thinking population though? Like, was it a Freudian slip? I mean, I guess she could have. I mean, both work there. Pollution, population, it both works. But I think she was thinking population. It's a common opinion on the left. Bill Nye, the former children's entertainer that the media claims is a climate expert. I will never forget this. I had a middle school teacher and she forced that stuff down my throat. And then I was like, I got older and I started hearing about indoctrination of children in school. And then I was like, oh, I was like, yeah, I guess I was kind of indoctrinated because we were told that Bill Nye was like some sort of hero. And then you start to look at this thing, you're like, Bill Nye is an idiot. And the media claims that he's some sort of climate expert. No, he's just some sort of children's entertainer who actually praised Planned Parenthood for their contributions to the field of population control. Yes, Bill Nye did that. And he's some sort of icon and he's worshipped in middle school classrooms. Don't believe me? I know you went through school too. I'm sure it was the same thing. People who have too many children, typically more than two, are targets of progressive hate and intolerance. If you have more than two children, you're not safe because these progressives hate you. Babies are bad for the earth. These are the words that they say out loud. They don't even hide it. They say babies are bad for the earth. Leftists in the media, they don't hide their agendas and beliefs. 309-451-9299. You can always text in. And folks, real quick before I get to my next story here, what I wanted to tell you about was Seats for Soldiers. So I'm going to be broadcasting live from there on Thursday and Friday morning from the Morning Buzz, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I'm going to be out there live at the Corn Crib in Normal. And what we do every year is we put flags on the back of the seat. Shout out to Diane from the VFW Auxiliary Post 454. She's great. She's donating the flags this year. and we're going to be putting them on the backs of the seats. And each flag on the back of the seats in the stadium represents $5. So you can donate just $5 today by texting the word seats, SEATS, to 77,000. Kat, where's my money going? Hope for the Warriors. Hope for the Warriors. They are great. They're a great national nonprofit. I know. Some people are like, a national nonprofit, does it come here to Central Illinois? It does. Last year, I think they helped around 30 plus families, something like that. We've teamed up with SEFQ, 10 Tech Enterprises, Miller Lite, Wilbur Group, and we're all gearing up for the 6th annual Seats for Soldiers event. So on-air talent from each station, that's going to be me, and all of our sister stations. We're going to be out there and we're going to be broadcasting for 36 hours straight. Yes, we're going to be trying to get donations for Central Illinois veterans for things like mental health services, recreation, financial services. There's all kinds of things that Hope for the Warriors um, helps with when it comes to our veterans. So special thanks to our sponsors, McLean County Asphalt, Tax and Accounting Plus, Ace Hardware, the Four Seasons Health Club. So it's all going to start 6 a.m. bright and early on July 20th, and it's going to go through the 21st to 6 p.m. So you got to make a donation right now. Text the word seats to our Jimmy John's text line. That's 77,000 SEATS. Okay. Housekeeping out of the way. Now I'm going to get back to the story. So I know a lot of you are probably going to tune in, and when I say the words Asa Hutchinson, you're like, who the hell is that, Kat? I don't get it. What's an Asa Hutchinson? Yeah, I didn't know either. I had to go Wikipedia him. If you saw this viral photo this week, you saw a presidential candidate and he was speaking to maybe 4 people in the room. That's Asa Hutchinson, okay? If you saw that viral photo. I didn't even know he was running for president. That's how irrelevant this guy is. So he's the former governor of Arkansas, and he has for some reason, I think he has decided to jump into this GOP primary for president. Now, this isn't about GOP primary chances because we all know he has no chance. He's just jumped in. I don't know why. Maybe he's trying to go out with some sort of bang. The guy, it looks like he's a dinosaur. Okay. This is the worst answer I've ever heard a presidential candidate ever give ever. This was a terrible answer. Now, this was all at the Family Leadership Conference in Iowa. And this is the first major event for the Iowa caucus. Most candidates, they sat down to answer questions from Tucker Carlson, actually. So Blaze Media put it on. They must have worked out a deal where Tucker Carlson came to perform some interviews. So Tucker Carlson, he asked Hutchinson about vetoing this bill back in 2021 as governor. So as his role as governor, he didn't sign this bill that would have banned genital mutilation, surgery, and prescribing permanently life-altering puberty blockers to minors. So there was a bill on his desk. He did not sign it that would ban this for minors. And Tucker Carlson just barbecued him. He got tucked, as I like to say. I love how in the Twitter world, his name is now being used as some sort of like action or some sort of slang word. So this guy got tucked. Here we go. Let's take a listen.
Raise their children. I believe that parents ought to be in control, and I also believe in the Constitution. I believe that God created 2 genders and that there should not be any confusion on your gender. But if there is confusion, then parents ought to be the one that guides the children. That to me is an important fundamental principle. Now, obviously, you could take it too far, and if there would have been a bill that said you should not ever have transgender surgery as a minor, I would sign that in a minute because no parent should be able to consent to that permanent change. But this bill did go too far. It was unconstitutional. It interfered with parents. And so I sided with parents on that bill in managing the most sensitive issue that a parent can face. And I believe in a limited role of government. And so, you know, if I don't think that California ought to be able to tell parents, you need to have gender affirming care for the children. The government should not do that. And in the same way, let's keep the government out of it unless it's that extreme case, and let's let parents guide the children. I stand with parents.
So, and amen for standing with parents, and I think everyone in the room would agree with that. But the reason I asked the question was not to bring up a sore subject, which I know that it is, but to ask if in the subsequent 2 years, you had said that you drew the line at castration of physical altercation of a child's body because it's permanent. But in the subsequent 2 years, I think we've learned that hormone therapy for prepubescent children is permanent. It changes the bone structure, it changes the brain of the child. A lot of people believe, including me, that it destroys the child's life, but it is permanent. It's not reversible. So given that and the standard you just articulated, do you have different feelings? I mean, this is a permanent change we are making to a child. Why would we allow that if we don't allow surgery?
So there you have it, folks. I got to take a quick break, but I'm going to be picking up on this issue here on the other side. There's a couple of other clips I want to play for you. I know that was a longer one, but the GOP primary voters, I mean, they see this for what it is. I'm sorry, but this is a big issue. And to just kind of skirt around the question and say that this is government overreach or not the role of the government, yickety schmackety, okay? In a perfect world, sure, okay. But in the current world, in 2023, we have Democrats who support taking your children away from you if you don't affirm their gender or affirm them. And we have schools. We have government encouraging schools to hide children undergoing these permanent transitions, to hide it from their parents. We need leaders who are going to fight and push back. And I don't know, this was just a terrible answer from I mean, the worst answer I've ever seen. All right. I'm going to be back here with more. The U.S. Treasury Secretary. This is not fake news. It's real and it's happening. Janet Yellen apparently took more than just one trip in her recent visit here to China. She was on hallucinogenic mushrooms, coke in the White House, and our U.S. Treasury Secretary is taking shrooms. Yes. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. I so do appreciate it. Coming up in just about a few minutes, we'll be talking with William J. Kelly. He's a Chicago reporter, Emmy winning, and he is a pain in Lori Lightfoot's ass because he's got a um, lawsuit against her. So we're going to be talking to William J. Kelly here coming up in just a bit. But first, I wanted to tell you guys about the 6th annual Seats for Soldiers. So over the course of 36 hours, we're going to be broadcasting live. So my show is going to be live from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Thursday and Friday. So over the course of this 36-hour period, members of the community, you guys, are going to be encouraged to save seats and make a donation to the benefit of Hope for the Warriors. So saving a seat is marking it with an American flag. So we tape it to the back of the seat, and it's a really amazing sight to see. And it's just heartwarming. So we're going to be designating that seat saved for a member of our military for them to come home, or for members of the military who weren't able to make it home. So donations will be accepted in person at the Corn Crib, so you can come see me and donate though during those 2 days, or you can donate through our Jimmy John's text line. Just text the word seats, SEATS, to 77,000. Like I said, we will be talking about Janet Yellen here coming up in just a bit. She was taking shrooms, folks. So there was cocaine in the White House and shrooms in Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen is 76 years old. I don't know if somebody didn't tell her that these were psychedelic mushrooms that she ate in Beijing. So I guess she stopped at this casual Beijing restaurant soon after she arrived on July 6th. Now it's out because there has been a report dropped by the Chinese state media. So take that with a grain of salt. But they did this very um, kind of fluffy story about Janet Yellen taking psychedelic mushrooms, and they took care to praise the secretary's chopstick skills. So, I mean, it wasn't really a hit piece on Janet Yellen. It was more of a fluff piece, like it was a good thing that she took psychedelic mushrooms. I don't know if she was aware that she took psychedelic, but she ate four whopping portions of this wild type of mushroom. And the reason why this is such a big deal is because she actually is on tape here, bowing to a Chinese vice premier, and that is a big no-no. In the United States, if you're an official, you should not be bowing to somebody that of a foreign country, and definitely not to China because they're an adversary of ours. So here is what it looked like for you guys. You're not going to hear it here on the Morning Buzz. There's no audio with it. It's just her bowing to the chair, but she's clearly on drugs. Wow. Hold on. Yeah. Oh man. That is something else. Yeah, no. She was on psychedelic mushrooms. Um, look, okay, she just likes the taste of the psychedelic mushrooms, all right? And Joe Biden and or Hunter Biden just likes the smell of cocaine. They're not addicts. They're not taking drugs because they're a bunch of sinful people, right? No. They just like the smell and the taste of drugs. That's why they do drugs, okay? It's not so that way they get high, all right? We're going to be back here in just a second. We're going to be talking with William J. Kelly. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. Coming up in just a little bit, we will be talking about Janet Yellen. Look, folks, she just likes the taste of psychedelic mushrooms. That's why she gobbled down 4 portions of this wild type of mushroom. She dropped into this casual Beijing restaurant after she arrived in Beijing. And according to a state media report, she was high on shrooms. This news coming to light after it was revealed that Janet Yellen bowed, like took a bow and bowed before the Chinese vice premier. This is a Chinese official, and critics said that this was a display of weakness. So it was very controversial that she took a bow on behalf of the United States. That is a big no-no. Never, ever, ever an American official does. They do not bow to other countries, especially not foreign adversaries like China. But come to figure out, she actually she's high on shrooms, so this is why she bowed. Probably she did look high. Look, okay, Hunter Biden, he just likes the smell of coke, and Janet Yellen, she just likes the taste of psychedelic mushrooms. Okay, so stop with that. The White House is not full of drug addicts. Okay, stop. Siri, stop. All right, we're going to be talking with William J. Kelly. He's a veteran Chicago reporter, feared and despised by Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and he's Emmy Award-winning producer, Citizen Kelly. Subscribe to him at reporterwilliamjkelly.com. He joins me every Monday, and what we like to do is kind of run through the violence that happens in Chicago over the weekend because the numbers are insane. We're going to talk probably about the migrant crisis, the hotels that are full of migrants. He's been covering that for quite some time. But I also wanted to get your reaction, William J. Kelly, to kind of a national conversation and what you think about Mike Pence saying it's not my concern when it comes to the large cities, these Democrat-run cities being overtaken by crime. He said this in an interview with Tucker Carlson. He asked him, why are we sending all of this money to Ukraine when our American cities are hurting and when they are just riddled with crime? And he said, quote, it's not my concern. In fact, he said it twice. So your thoughts, being that you live in Chicago and you've been dealing with this as a reporter for your entire career.
I think it's great that he said that. You want to know why? Because finally, so I'm just happy that he just came out and admitted it. Okay.
Yeah. First time I think a career politician told the truth.
We need more honesty. Maybe he was on shrooms. Who knows what was going on there? It's unbelievable. Yeah, for decades now, and I don't want to be one of these "I told you so" kind of guys. That there's no benefit to being that guy. Okay, but I will say this: for decades, I've been saying to Republican Party leaders, local, state, and national, Chicago is a major American city. Don't just say, Chicago's a Democrat city. Chicago gets what it deserves. We hate Chicago. Don't say that. There are good people in Chicago. As Chicago goes, so goes the state of Illinois, by the way. I hate to tell you. As Chicago goes, so goes the Midwest. Okay? Mm-hmm. What country in its right mind would say, you know what? I mean, did Stalin say, the heck with Stalingrad? Name one person, the heck with Rome. The heck with, Berlin. The heck with that. No, they fought tooth and nail for their cities. Mm-hmm. Why can't we find a single American politician? Oh, Kat, you got me going. You found my.
Well, that's his mentality. And honestly, I do think that Mike Pence has the mentality of a lot of folks in the Midwest, including myself at one point. I just said, who cares about Chicago? It's that, northern part of the state, and there's just a bunch of crazies up there. But then you visit Chicago. So I went and I tried to go to school in Chicago. I wanted to go to Columbia. And I decided against it because it was just so crazy. In Chicago, and I said, I don't think I would be safe here. And
you'd be right. So, and God bless you. What you did was heroic. You said, okay, fine. So I guess my dream of going to Columbia is not gonna work out. But I am going to still follow through on my mission of having a radio show and informing the people in my community that I care about. God bless you. That is, in my opinion, that's what being a hero is. So, there you go. It really is infuriating because it doesn't have to be this way, Kat. Okay. And we should be defending our major American cities the same way, people like Mike Pence are telling us that we should be defending Kiev. Okay. The people of Chicago are literally being destroyed, literally destroyed as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I was here, we were talking about the plan to give migrants guns and badges, to make them police officers. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Before that, we were talking about this migrant hotel, which, by the way, has received $7 million taxpayer dollars, this hotel alone, that is literally right on the Magnificent Mile in downtown Chicago, right? But here's why if you don't nip something in the bud, guess what happens? J.B. Pritzker, there's a new law to make it mandatory to allow migrants to rent in buildings, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, at taxpayer expense. So, like I said, they've already spent $7 million on the luxury hotel right down the street from where I'm sitting right now. Okay, literally, a half a block away. Okay, but now what they're going to do, unless people finally just say, okay, we're going to step up. We're not just going to say Chicago gets what it deserves. We're going to step up. I'm asking people to go to reporterwilliamjkelly.com and sign a petition, because what they want to do now is they want to force landlords to rent to migrants. Now, why is this an issue? Because, first of all, if you haven't seen the videos that I've made of the migrants, you need to go to William J. Kelly on Twitter, right? Reporter William J. Kelly on Twitter, right?
Right.
And by all means, go to, like I said, reporterwilliamjkelly.com. But here's the problem. They're going to spend $25 million. They're already saying that they want $25 million now. You see how this works? To pay the rent. So they're going to force migrants to move into your building. They're going to force you to accept migrants in your building, and they're going to force you to pay the rent. Okay? Now,
I didn't know it took it a step further. So this $25 million is taxpayer money that they're using?
Yeah, it's all taxpayer money. Like here I am, I'm endlessly, as you are, trying to like research and make sure that I've got all of the detail, cross every T, dot every I, make sure I've got all my facts straight and everything else. And guess what? At the end of the day, it's all taxpayer money. It's all your money. Okay.
It doesn't grow on trees, right?
Exactly right.
The government doesn't produce a product, right? They're not producing a product. No. They tax for their programs, and this is a program where they're providing free rental assistance, or is that going to be solely on the landlord?
That's just it. It used to be that landlords could, if they wanted to rent to a migrant, that was their choice. Obviously, it's their building, right? It's their choice. But typically landlords are a little hesitant to do this because, okay, this migrant doesn't have a job. What happens when they can't pay the rent? Especially, in Chicago, it's very, very difficult to evict somebody who's not paying the rent. It's very difficult to evict somebody who's piling garbage, who is engaging in some kind of illegal behavior. It's very difficult to evict people. Mm-hmm. Well, now it's going to be impossible. And by the way, Kat, you want to hear the funny part? This is not just in Chicago. This bill makes
it's statewide.
This is statewide. It makes it mandatory for landlords to rent to migrants statewide. And they've got no shortage of migrants. So if you live, for example, in a republic, and I know how these Democrats operate, I've seen it with my own eyes growing up in Chicagoland. If there's a Republican state rep or state Senate district or even congressional district, they actually run the numbers. They do the math. They say, okay, the last Republican won here by whatever, X number of votes. There's nothing stopping them from just simply resettling that exact number or double or triple number of migrants in that district. That is what these Democrat politicians do. I'm so sorry to say this. Trust me, it doesn't do me any bit of good to say this, Kat. And I hope you'll have me back after I say this. But I've been talking about this migrant issue, as you well know. I've been talking about it on your show for quite some time now. And I've always done this with kind of the hope that somebody would step up and say and do something, a leader, somebody, right? Crickets, nobody, certainly not even in the Illinois Republican Party. If we heard a single person or the single leader saying anything about this, if anything, some of them are openly supporting this.
Dennis Tipsword.
So what
he was co-sponsoring the bill. Dennis Tipsword, who I was supportive of in this race. He recently got elected, and he co-sponsors the legislation to give the illegals, call them illegal immigrants, to give illegal immigrants
guns
and badges, and arresting powers over United States citizens.
That's the end of law enforcement.
You didn't even touch on how this is going to cost people. I mean, there's this criminal element, right? So I rent here in Bloomington Normal, and it's outrageous. And I pay extra money for a place that does background checks, and they're pretty good about it. But people get through the cracks, right?
When it comes to you.
Mm-hmm. But imagine what they're going to start charging people to try to police things. You don't know who's coming into these buildings because they don't have the official paperwork, the citizenship, that you can't perform a background check on them because they're not a United States citizen. Do they have security numbers? Or, I mean, right? You can't perform a background check on somebody if they're not a citizen of the United States. Like,
we don't know what their criminal history is. We don't even know what their real names are. And Pritzker wants to give them guns and badges and put them and literally force your landlord to rent the apartment next door to you.
And then to force me to live next to it.
And to force you to pay their rent.
Yeah.
And to force you to pay the cat. What is the point? At what point? At what point? Okay, help me help you. Help me help you.
Yeah.
ReporterWilliamJKelly.com. There's a petition there. I'm asking you to sign a petition. If you're willing to do that, then God bless you.
Yeah, just sign the petition, folks. We have to cut to break. But reporter William J. Kelly, as always, just so much fun with you, William J. Kelly, on the Morning Buzz, Monday morning after the Chicago violence over the weekend. I appreciate it. Real quick, do you have numbers over the weekend? How many people died?
I remember the last time you asked me that, I said it was, the usual 30 or 40 shootings. But then by the time I got off the air with you, there was another 30. There was a mass shooting that added another 30 shot, or so I mean, like 30, 40, 80 shot, And why are we spending, this $25 million that they want to spend per, on the migrant forcing migrants to rent in your building? Why not spend some of that to secure our city streets? Why not? And by the way, these programs, they exclude American citizens, they exclude veterans, they exclude homeless people in America. I tried to, as a reporter, to enter the Inn of Chicago, luxury hotel that has been housing these migrants to the tune of $7 million, thus that I'm aware of, that I've been able to identify so far. They won't even let me walk in the building. I mean, there's something fundamentally wrong about this. And as a reporter, I can investigate it, I can report it, but you would, and I would hope, and I can hope and pray that there might be one Republican or one leader in the state of Illinois. But no, if you want to help stop this,
it's on you.
Please, reporter WilliamJKelly.com, sign the petition. subscribe to our newsletter, and we need to work together as citizens of this country to address this issue, Kat.
Thanks so much, William J. Kelly. You have a great rest of your day. We're going to be back, folks. Like I said, Janet Yellen, she's on shrooms, folks. No, literally, she is. Okay, thanks so much for tuning in. Hey, if you're watching right now, go ahead, smash that like button. And as always, go visit WilliamJKelly.com, reporterWilliamJKelly.com. You can fill out that petition to speak out against what Governor J.B. Pritzker is doing in regards to these landlords now being forced to not only rent to somebody who is of an illegal status, but also to pay for their rent. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like if it's from what William J. Kelly said, it's a rental assistance program. So you and I are going to be paying their rent at a statewide level because this is statewide legislation. So, as always, right, statewide legislation helps out that of in Chicago, right? And our legislation is built off of, hey, what are we doing in Chicago? What can we do for the illegal immigrants in Chicago to secure that voter base? Because make no mistake, the reason why they want illegal immigrants in these hotels and in these properties and to not pay rent is because that secures a huge, massive voter block for the Democrat Party. They know that if they give them this housing, then they're going to be, beholden to the Democrat cause. So it's a statewide legislation. And what we could see here is if you rent currently, like me, I rent, um, you're going to live next to an illegal immigrant who probably doesn't have a background check performed on. I mean, you don't even know this person's name. And you, as the landlord, are forced to provide rent and rental assistance to this individual. It's real sad. It's a real shame. Speaking of Chicago, 2 peacekeepers shot in Chicago this weekend. Um, so what are peacekeepers? So peacekeepers are typically people who are former felons or convicted felons. So there was a story once, I brought it to you. It was a peacekeeper who had been in prison for murder for 10 years and he got out. And this is a state program that tries to prevent violence. So Chicago police have had their hands full. In a little village on Friday night, especially considering that a group of peacekeepers on the street, they were trying to prevent violence, and there were shots that rang out, and 2 men were shot. While officers were working the crime scene, they reported hearing more than 20 rounds fired nearby. So these peacekeepers are paid via taxpayer dollars. The taxpayer funded peacekeepers, and they think that this is an important tactic to stop Chicago's crime. So, what this is, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker have been promoting these peacekeepers, peacekeepers. And what they've been trying to do is give them these neon vests. They're essentially like therapists with guns, but these therapists typically have some sort of criminal background. You know, they're trying to reform these convicts by giving them a neon vest and sending them out there into essentially what's a war zone. And I mean, they're not trained officers, right? They go through this program training. They're not police officers. And they're going out there with the intention of, oh, who hurt you? Let's talk about your feelings. That's what these guys in the neon vests are all about. They're not about, hey, I'm going to shoot you if you dare even point a gun at me. I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to cuff you. We're going to throw you in prison for gang activity. No, these guys are former gangbangers and former gangsters in Chicago who were given neon vests and some sort of training via taxpayer dollars, and they get paid, I think, $200 a day or something to go out there and to try to keep the peace as some sort of social worker with a neon vest. Like, this is a death wish for these convicted felons. And this comes from the party who says, we're all about reforming convicts. We're all about, helping people uh, at a second chance of life. Yeah, what you're doing with this second chance of life is essentially giving them a death sentence because this just in, two peacekeepers shot, um, including one on electronic monitoring device. So the peacekeeper uh, was out there peacekeeping on taxpayer money. He was wearing a yellow vest and an electronic monitoring device, meaning that he was on some sort of probation. Um, wow. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This All right, we're going to be back here in just a second. Be sure, hey, if you're watching, go ahead, like, subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out. And I mean, we couldn't do this without you. And all we ask is that you like our channel, subscribe to the channel, and then also share this video out with your normie friends. Look, folks, you can't make this up. Two Chicago men were shot while working as peacekeepers. Yes, this happened in Little Village over the weekend. So, peacekeepers, you're like, what is that, Cat? These are guys who are traditionally ex felons or ex cons. They've served 10 plus years in prison. And what Governor J.B. Pritzker did and Brandon Johnson, they said, let's reform them. Let's give them a second chance at life. After they're out of prison, we'll give them a neon vest and we'll send them out there to play social worker in what essentially is a war zone. Chicago is a war zone. So they're sending these people out there in yellow vests to play cutesy time and to sit people down and say, "Oh, your mom didn't hug you enough. I'm so sorry to hear that." Instead of, I don't know, sending trained police officers out there to cuff and arrest these violent gang bangers, these violent gangsters, and to lock them away for a long period of time. We're sending out these guys in neon vests. So over the weekend, a couple of these peacekeepers who are paid like $200 a day via taxpayer money. This is a state program. So you are taxed as a Bloomington Normalite, as a Bloomington in a Blooming Nation. I don't know, a Bloomington resident, and as a Normalite, or as somebody from Colfax, somebody from Leroy, Hayworth, wherever you're listening from, likely you are paying for this program where they get paid $200 a day to go out there and play guidance counselor with a yellow vest on. And now these two Chicago men who were working as peacekeepers and were being paid with taxpayer money, they went out there and they got shot. But the story gets crazier because one of the men was shot in the leg right next to his electronic monitoring device. It's a bracelet he was wearing for a pending felony gun case. You have criminals playing guidance counselor in yellow vests on taxpayer dime to go out there and to try to police the streets, try to prevent. Why? Why is this a thing? You're killing people because these two guys were shot. I don't know if they died or not. I don't think that they died. There was one guy who shot in the leg. The guy who shot in the leg was already on some sort of probation because he has a pending felony gun case. This is insanity. I don't see I don't see why this peacekeeper or how this peacekeeper thing. I mean, maybe you can tell me. 309-451-9299. Do you see a plus or a positive side to having ex-criminals, convicts, current criminals? I mean, this guy has a pending felony gun case going on and he's got an electronic monitoring device. Criminals in neon vests policing the streets of Chicago. What? Do you see the plus side of that? To that? I don't. I'll be back on the other side. It doesn't get crazier than that story, folks. Please like and subscribe. The that's the only thing that I ask of you guys. I'm getting to your comments now. Kinda Hunger Games for criminals. Just have them go at it. Yeah, peacekeepers being shot at. Who expected that? Yeah, well, and essentially, what I think is going on, and there was one case where this guy, he drugged somebody out of a car and beat him so bad to where his face had to be reconstructed. This was a peacekeeper. This was a guy who served 10 years for being a murderer, and he murdered somebody. He was let out. I don't understand how that is even a possibility. I feel like if you murder someone, you should spend life in prison. And actually, the Bible says, a life for a life. If you kill somebody, the only, and that's the way it used to be. If you killed somebody, then we kill you. That's the way it used to be, and that's how I think it should be. If you commit an act like murder, I think that it's justified when we take your life as well. I know it gets mucky, say like you accidentally hit somebody with your car, manslaughter, things like that. Yeah, but if it is cold-blooded murder, I think that you should also have your life taken from you. That's fair. That's called being fair. But there was this guy, he was a peacekeeper. He drugged the guy out of the car. He was just an innocent bystander. He was stopped at a traffic light. The guy smashes the window, pulls the car. He was wearing one of these neon vests. He was being paid by you to go out and to smash somebody's face in. Like, that's my whole issue with this. Fine, whatever. Chicago, you wanna be Chicago, have all of the criminals go at this like some sort of Hunger Games style, fine by me. Just don't do it on my dime. But we're paying these guys $200 a day to go out there, to wear these neon vests and to act like guidance counselors. I like this text. If you guys have ever seen the movie Hunger Games, that's what I think this is. These peacekeepers being shot at, these criminals all going after each other. Some of them wear yellow vests and some of them get paid to do crime. This is a very Hunger Games esque program, these peacekeepers being paid on taxpayer dime. We're going to be back on the other side for the 7 o'clock hour. As always, folks, if you're tuned into the live stream, I would deeply appreciate it if you consider donating to Seats for Soldiers. That's Hope for the Warriors. That's the nonprofit organization we work with. They help out Central Illinois veterans. And we're going to be out at the Corn Crib uh, both Thursday and Friday. I'm going to be doing a live show from there. And you can text the word seats right now if you want to donate to our Jimmy John's text line. That's SEATS 77,000. 36-hour broadcast. I'm going to be there. We're saving seats. So what that kind of looks like is an American flag is placed on the back of the seat, and that's a saved seat for a member of our military. What Hope for the Warriors does is they help Central Illinois veterans with things like home assistance, mortgages. They help with financial issues. They also help with mental issues. They provide services. They provide um, vacations sometimes. Or there's a story of a guy who wanted to bike ride, but he didn't have a leg. They created something and they bought him some sort of leg to continue to ride his bike. So they do all kinds of cool things for Central Illinois veterans. Now, coming up, we are going to be talking about Janet Yellen because she was, in fact, taking shrooms. Yes, she wolfed down Chinese mushrooms known for causing like hallucinogenic effects, psychedelic effects. And this allegedly took place shortly after her arrival to Beijing. Now, this is news because it was very controversial. We had Janet Yellen, who's 76 years old. I don't know how these people live so long, but she's 76 years old, and she bowed before some sort of Chinese state official. He's the vice premier, and he's a big guy. He's like a Chinese CCP guy, and she bowed before him, and that was a big no, 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 no. Never, ever, ever. An American official does not bow before a foreign adversary or somebody that of a foreign country. It's a big no, no. We actually have a former W. Bush White House senior staffer. His name is Bradley Blakeman. I like how he puts it. He says it looks like she was being summoned to the principal's office. And that's exactly the optics that the Chinese love. It makes us look weak. To bow before a Chinese CCP official, that makes us look incredibly weak. But it turns out that she was high on shrooms at the time she bowed before this Chinese CCP official. So I don't know if that justifies it, but and look, folks, she just likes the taste. She just likes the taste of the psychedelic mushrooms. Hunter Biden just likes the smell of cocaine. These guys are not drug addicts. Okay. So stop it with that. That's fake news. Also, a little bit later, Tucker Carlson does 2 hilarious minutes on the White House cocaine scandal. And he said that it's his favorite story of all time. It is because it just perfectly sums up this administration. Now, it's between 2 stories for me. Now, I really like the cocaine story. I think that's pretty funny. But I also like Sam Britton, who was this nuclear waste program czar, and him stealing women's luggage at the airport and trying on all of these different dresses that weren't his, and then being charged with felony theft, and having to back out of his position within the Biden administration. That's a pretty funny story. The Coke is also really funny. Um, Also, a weird story, a costume vigilante is taking the San Francisco streets back because crime has gotten so bad. So this is literally a superhero. Like, he's costumed and he's going around trying to deter people from committing crime. Hilarious. Maybe she was at Woodstock. Shrooms, man. Like, she's 76 years old. I'm surprised something like that wouldn't kill her. That's the thing here, folks. She's 76. Like, imagine your grandmother taking shrooms, psychedelic shrooms. And there's been professors, they went on the record with CNN regarding this story. So it's not made up, it's not fake news. Yes, we actually had the U.S. Treasury Secretary taking shrooms and then going to meet CCP officials, Chinese Communist Party officials, and then bowing before them after taking these psychedelic shrooms. So there was a doctor who went on the record with CNN and said that what happens when you take these specific mushrooms that she did, and I can't pronounce what they are, so I'm not even going to try. But what these shrooms do is they keep you high for about 3 days. Like, you're tripping for 3 days. Like, this is not a walk in the park. So I don't know. Now, this was all a Chinese state media report. So take this with a grain of salt. I do think that she was on shrooms. There's no way that she wasn't on shrooms. Now, they did a state media report. I don't know if she knew that she was taking psychedelic mushrooms. She ordered them at this Chinese restaurant. Um, she's 76 years old. I would not be shocked if she didn't know and nobody told her. I don't know. Either way, it's a bad look. And you would think that she would have enough people around her to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen. A costumed vigilante is taking the streets of San Francisco back because crime has gotten that bad. He's decided to dress up as some sort of superhero, and he tries to deter people from committing crime in San Francisco. Just a normal guy, but I can't wait to get to the story. He's a business owner, and he said he's had enough of the crime in San Francisco. So, what he's resorted to is dressing up like some sort of vigilante, and people gave him really the super hero name of Boots. Boots. So we'll be talking about that here coming up in just a bit. Plus, Tucker Carlson does this hilarious 2 minutes on the White House cocaine scandal. He says it's his favorite story of all time. I would have to agree. I really like the cocaine story. Now, I think that the cocaine story was a distraction type story. The reason why it was dominating the news cycle still is dominating the news cycle. So, for so long, is because Joe Biden is sending out cluster bombs, and bombs are banned in 100 plus countries because they're known to not detonate until years after the fact, and they cause mass civilian casualties. Jen Psaki herself, the former White House press secretary, said that cluster bombs are acts of they're a war crime to use them. If you use them, then you're committing a crime, a war crime. So Jen Psaki herself said that in regards to Russia possibly using them. So Joe Biden, because Ukraine is running out of ammunition, which is hilarious in and of itself, because we know that the United States isn't producing ammunition. We know that we don't have any kind of factories or manufacturing to produce our own ammunition, and all of it comes from China. You see how this thing works? You see how this thing works? So all of it comes from China, but they're running out of it, and we don't have any more of it. So what we're doing is giving them cluster bombs, but these cluster bombs could kill civilians. It's just a mess. So Tucker Carlson says that the coke in the White House is his favorite story. I want to say that it's my favorite story as well. I also really like the Sam Brinton story. He's the nuclear program czar who was caught stealing ladies' luggages for him to try on their dresses. And then he was charged with some sort of felony theft, and he had to resign from his role as the nuclear program czar or nuclear program administration, whatever. I like both those stories. I think they're both funny because it just shows you how terrible this administration is, which brings me to this story. She's 76 years old. So imagine your grandmother. Okay, you're like 76. That's pretty old, right? That's pretty old to be gobbling down four portions of this wild type of mushroom. So she dropped in at this casual Beijing restaurant soon after she arrived there on July 6th. This is Janet Yellen. Now, she's the U.S. Treasury Secretary, and apparently she took more than just one trip in her recent visit to China. So she took a couple of trips, folks. According to a new state report, so this is a Chinese media report, Chinese state media report. So take that for what it is. The Treasury Secretary wolfed down a Chinese mushroom known for causing psychedelic effects. This allegedly took place shortly after her arrival to Beijing. This Chinese state media reported in this very fluff story. It was very, it wasn't a hit piece against Janet Yellen by any means. They praised the secretary's use of chopsticks, even in this report. So there's also this professor who talked to CNN, and he said that the mushrooms that she actually took and gobbled down 4 portions of at this restaurant, um, it makes you hallucinate for 3 days. So this is this is a drug, a drug. So I don't know if she knew she was taking them. I have no idea. But the news came to light after it was revealed that Janet Yellen had bowed before this Chinese vice premier. So this is a CCP guy. He's a Chinese official. And critics have said that, hey, this is a display of weakness, and this is not good to bow before a foreign adversary and it shows weakness on behalf of the United States. If you're watching on the live stream, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, be sure to subscribe, and you can watch Janet Yellen bowing before this Chinese CCP type fellow. It's clear that she's on some sort of mushrooms, 100%. She looks like she's on drugs in this video. Now, my whole problem, never, ever, ever, ever should an American official bow before somebody of a foreign country. I like how the former George W. Bush White House senior staffer, his name is Bradley Blakeman, he says it this way: it looks like she's been summoned to the principal's office, and that's exactly the optics the Chinese love. They love this. They love when you show weakness. They love when you bow down to them because they are communists. So there's that story. I mean, look, folks, and I'm so tired of people saying that the White House administration, the Biden administration, they're all just a bunch of drug addicts, you know. Look, Kieran Jean-Pierre, her drinking and driving incident, which we don't know if that's true. It was rumored that she was drinking and driving and she got pulled over. I don't know if that's true, but she might just like the taste of alcohol, folks. And Janet Yellen, she just might like the taste of psychedelic mushrooms. And Hunter Biden, well, he just might like the smell of cocaine, okay? It doesn't mean that they're using and abusing drugs in the Biden administration, okay? Okay, so stop it with that talk. That's not nice. All right, Tucker Carlson, 2 hilarious minutes. Speaking of Hunter Biden and his cocaine addiction. Oh, sorry, I told you he's not addicted to coke. He just likes the smell of it. Tucker Carlson was a keynote speaker at the Turning Point USA Action Conference. Our very own Kev Ferris was there, and he did an entire show. If you missed it, you can catch it on cities929.com. The podcast Speechless. He was there. He was talking with all kinds of conservative pundits, leaders. Tucker Carlson was one of the keynote speakers there, and he was about to wrap up his speech that he was giving there. But then a member of the audience yelled out about the cocaine found at the White House. As most of you know, there was some blow found at the White House where Joe Biden works and lives. On an unrelated note, Hunter Biden doesn't do cocaine. Yes, he does. He doesn't do cocaine. He just likes the smell. Okay. Carlson couldn't resist. So the White House cocaine scandal is his favorite story of all time. Let's take a listen to Tucker Carlson and what he had to say about the coke story. Here's 2 whole minutes. I mean, these 2 whole minutes are just so precious. Let's take a listen.
And you have to ask. I don't know what, you know what? The thing about that story is just a mystery to me. No one was more shocked than I was. Are you serious? In the Biden White House, somebody left an 8-ball of cocaine in a public. I was like, I said to my wife, that just doesn't, it's just not in character. You know? I just don't believe it. It's clearly a setup. I went right back to Marion Barry and I was like, somebody set you up. I'm serious. It was, you know what I mean? It was like, it was so, I'll stop with it. That was my favorite story of all time. Because it just explains all the behavior. It really does. I mean, I worked in the media business for my whole life, so I know what the behavior looks like. But it's like crazed and grandiose. I've got a plan. You're not going to believe it. It's unbelievable. It's going to totally work. What we're going to do is we're going to totally rearrange everything, okay? We've been doing things a certain way for a long time, okay? And it's worked. But I've got a better plan. And that's their entire approach.
I absolutely love Tucker Carlson. He Unfortunately, I do have to fact check Tucker there, though. It wasn't an entire 8 ball of Coke. It was only a dime bag of Coke. Tucker should be more precise with his language there. But I figured he'd want to hear it from a friend. City's 92.9. We're friends here. And I'd rather you not hear it from PolitiFact, okay? And it wasn't an 8 ball of Coke, it was a dime bag, okay? Tucker Carlson. It's amazing to see him actually be free. When it doesn't have the shackles of Fox News, when he doesn't have to um, perform within the confines of legacy media, he's able to actually be himself. And it was an amazing sight to see that clip because it just shows how much fun and how much he's having a blast now that he's not under Fox News's thumb. Now, I do want you to meet Boots. Boots has lived in San Francisco for about 20 years, and he's working on the outside rather than the inside. So, Boots is a vigilante. And I saw this clip and I thought to myself, wow, it's gotten that bad in San Francisco where we have just regular business owners. He's just a guy, he's just a regular business owner that has had enough with the crime in his community. Yes, friends, San Francisco crime has gotten so bad that this man has turned to costume vigilantism. So I've got the clip here. This is, I think, ABC 7. This is a local story that they did on the guy. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Pena spoke with a San Francisco resident and business owner who has taken it upon himself to fight back and protect his neighborhood. She's in the newsroom with an interview and a story you'll see only on ABC 7. Luce?
Yes, Dan, the San Francisco resident you're about to meet says he's hoping to help his neighborhood. At first, he was yelling at thieves who were breaking into cars. Now he's walking around the area hoping to scare them off. He's lived in San Francisco for over 20 years, and lately, instead of going by his legal name, people call him...
I'm called Boots, working from outside rather than inside.
Covering his face with a ski mask to protect his identity, Boots walks around his neighborhood, Fisherman's Wharf, looking like this and with a non-lethal weapon on his waist that looks like a gun. His goal is to scare off thieves from breaking into cars.
The criminals are getting to know us. I wouldn't call it an organized anything. It's just concerned citizens. Every day is a small victory. You chase them off from one corner.
For years, he's captured videos of car break-ins, and now he says frustration led him to take matters into his own hands. He says he's doing it to help the area where he lives and owns a business.
The tourists aren't going to come here. The business of some people that have lived here and been here for their entire lives, and it's not fair.
According to SFPD's incident data, on average, there are 67 thefts from vehicles every day in San Francisco. Outside of this brunch spot, employees see car break-ins on a daily basis.
They just leave all their stuff in there and then boom shakalaka, less than 5 seconds, they grab your stuff and they're gone.
Many who work here share a common sense of helplessness.
I'm frustrated too, and you can't do anything.
Yesterday, while Boots was walking in the area, SFPD arrested him for brandishing an imitation firearm, which is a misdemeanor.
We don't recommend anyone doing that. We understand everyone's frustration. Officers are frustrated in taking the number of police reports regarding auto burglaries occurring throughout the city. However, there is a system in place to do that.
SFPD says they're short-staffed, but to Boots, even though he was arrested, he viewed this as another victory.
While the police were there was nobody getting their car broken into for that half hour.
There's no way to truly know if what he's doing is working. We met this couple from New York.
I love it. So they did an exclusive interview. I hate when they say you're only going to hear it here on ABC 7. Okay, well, you're hearing it on the Morning Buzz this morning, folks. A story about a man who's a costume vigilante, and he's taking the San Francisco streets back because the crime has gotten so bad. So His name is Boots. He goes by Boots because he wears boots and he wears a black ski mask. He has sunglasses on and he patrols the streets of San Francisco. His goal is to scare away people from breaking into cars because that's a big problem. Now, he has a non-lethal weapon. The cop there is what blows my mind. He goes, there's a system in place. And he goes, you can't just go around doing this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, he goes, we have a system in place and we're working on it and we're taking reports. Taking reports is not good enough. You have to lock these people up and throw away the key. So it's unclear what he's going to do now that he just admitted to a network news, a local news affiliate, that he's doing this. We've been hearing for years now about the hot pile of poop that San Francisco is turning into. And I mean that literally and figuratively because the holes in the sidewalks are actually filled with human homeless poop. Yes. Like, I wish that was a joke. It's not. It's not a joke. And I mean that figuratively, right? It is just a hot pile of poop. And ignoring the problem hasn't stopped the problem. That's what they're doing. That's what the police are doing. They say, "Oh, yeah, we're addressing it." You're ignoring the problem. You're taking reports and you're not arresting these people. These people need to be arrested. Defunding the police hasn't helped. Progressive voters voting for the same progressive politicians, supporting the same progressive policies, and then wondering why they got carjacked isn't working. So maybe Boots has what it takes. Maybe, just maybe. He's not the hero San Francisco asked for. He may be the hero that the city needs. But he's the hero we have right now. He may not be the hero that the city needs, but I think that he's the only one who's willing to say enough's enough. Fare thee well, Boots. You have not failed the city of San Francisco. All right, I do have to take a break. Thanks so much for tuning in. 309-451-9299. I'll be back. Eventually, we are going to get to VP Mechanical Pencils, former VP Mechanical Pencils, Mike Pence, for his stances as they pertain to U.S. foreign policy with Ukraine. What he said here, he said the quiet part out loud, folks. He does not care. It's not his concern that there's skyrocketing suicides, that there's increased public filth, poop in the streets, that there's crime. He doesn't care about the degrading American economy. It's not his concern. Wow. He admitted that to Tucker Carlson, not once, but twice. I've got the clip here coming up next. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching right now, go ahead, smash that like button. I so do appreciate your listenership. I don't see how there is a shortage of non-cluster bombs. BS. Yeah, so I don't know how there is a possible shortage. Now, what I saw from, oh gosh, what's his name? A congressman. He's a leftist, and he was saying, there's no reason why we can't have ammunition. We need to be building steel factories. We need to be manufacturing ammunition here in the United States. It takes about 5 to 7 years to even get approved to build a factory because of all the Environmental Protection Agency regulations. So if you want to build a factory, like, good luck, because it's going to take you about 5 to 7 years to just get your paperwork in order. Then you got to build the thing. Then you're met with all of these progressive policies that throttle your ability to actually produce things like steel. And you're going to need to operate using effective energy like oil, like natural gas, nuclear energy, or hydroelectric. But those are all energy sources that the left is against. And, we don't actually make anything here in the United States. I think the top 15 ammunition factories, people who make the ammunition, are all found in China. So the Chinese are making all of the ammunition. Now, I agree with you, Mad Chatter. You said, I don't see how there is a shortage. I don't think there's a shortage. I think that the Chinese are withholding that ammunition. We have seen that China and Russia are being joined at the hip. There is, I'm sure, talks between Putin and Xi Jinping. They're both dictators. Putin is an authoritarian dictator. We have the Communist Chinese Party of Xi Jinping. He's serving currently an unprecedented third term. So he is acting as some sort of dictator, which I want to point out that Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden were wearing these, they're called Mao suits. So these were suits that Mao actually wore. And we had Joe Biden congratulating Xi Jinping on his unprecedented third term, which just goes to show you that they don't care that the CCP is hurting the Chinese people. And they're acting as a regime. They don't care because we have a regime here. It's all regimes. So the Chinese and the Russians are probably joined at the hip, and they're probably in cahoots with each other. And China said, you know what, we're not going to be sending munitions, and we're just going to tell the United States that we don't have any more ammunition to give them. Or we're going to withhold that ammunition. So that's why, because we're not making ours. So where does the ammunition come from? For us to give to Ukraine. It comes from China. Okay, it doesn't come from the United States. It comes from China. We buy it off of China. That's the way it goes, and they might be withholding that. I wouldn't put it past the Chinese government that they're withholding ammunitions or saying that they don't have the supply. So then we've decided to send cluster bombs. There's another story I want to get to today. Vivek Ramaswamy. I gotta be better about that. I think he's going to pass up Ron DeSantis, and he's going to pass him up in the polls. I think the last poll that I saw, he was down by 6 points. That's going to change here in the week, I'm sure. I want Vivek to be the 2024 presidential VP, the VP pick for President Trump. And here's why. There's an amazing clip out there of Vivek talking with Tucker Carlson at this leadership conference type thing, where Tucker Carlson was interviewing, the GOP candidates, and Vivek, he talks about why January 6th happened, and nobody has the cojones to say that that's why Jan 6 happened, but Vivek does. So if you're watching right now, go ahead, smash that like button. I'd greatly appreciate it. You're listening to The Morning Buzz. We're going to be back in just about 30 seconds. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Coming up in just a little bit, Freudian slip or embarrassing gaffe. In today's episode of Freudian slip, or was that an embarrassing gaffe? Kamala Harris. She's demanding that the population be reduced. Yes, she says this. She wants the population to be reduced because if the population is reduced, then we're going to have cleaner air and cleaner drinking water. Okay. Tucker Carlson straight up destroying a GOP presidential candidate. Actually, a lot of them. They all got tucked. And one of the biggest issues that face our country is this genital mutilation, the puberty blockers for minors. And Asa Hutchinson, who I know you're like, Kat, who the heck is that? What's an Asa Hutchinson? Well, I guess he's a GOP presidential candidate. Tucker Carlson asks him about a bill that he did not sign off on that would have banned genital mutilation and puberty blockers for minors. And he didn't sign off on it as a governor of Arkansas. So I'm going to get to that. And then a little bit later, like I talked about earlier, hallucinogenic mushrooms. Yes, the Biden Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, who's 76 years old, took hallucinogenic mushrooms. So we're going to get to all of that here coming up. Plus, Mike Pence, he says the quiet part out loud, folks. I think this is the first time that a career politician actually told the truth. He, in fact, said it not once, but twice with Tucker Carlson at this Leadership Institute. It's one of the biggest events prior to the Iowa caucus. So Tucker Carlson interviewed, I think it was like for 5 hours straight. He was doing all kinds of research clearly, and he asked very specific questions of each of the GOP presidential candidates. Mike Pence, he meant what he said, folks, when he said that it's not his concern. Well, what's not his concern? Tucker Carlson asked him about the degrading American economy. Tucker Carlson asked him about the increased public filth, the poop in the streets, the rats. Chicago has a rat problem, the skyrocketing suicide rates. He asked them about this as it pertained to why would we be sending cluster bombs to Ukraine? Why are we sending Abrams tanks? Why are we sending all of these things over to Ukraine when our own cities are being destroyed? And he said this during his appearance at an Iowa event with the show host Tucker Carlson. Hey, that Tucker Carlson guy, he should have a show on Fox News. Oh, wait. Oops. But Tucker Carlson, he asked Mike Pence about this, and he said, quote, "None of this is my concern." He said it not once, but twice. And this is the first time we're hearing a career politician tell the truth. I'm going to get to that clip here coming up in just a little bit. But first, I want to give you a happy news story today. I like doing this for you here on the Morning Buzz, 7:33 a.m. Siblings donate $2 million in sports equipment around the world. So 6 years ago, we have Andrew and Jocelyn, and they are of North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. And they started this charity group. It's called Donate Sport. That's what the charity group is called, Donate Sport, to make good use of sports equipment and to get it into the hands of people in need. Since then, Donate Sport has been a huge success, and they've donated more than $2 million in sports equipment all around the world. But the gear doesn't have to go far to make a difference. Donate Sport actually helps local kids stay active, as well as nearby schools without budgets for sports equipment. So that's what they donate all of the sports equipment to. Some schools that might need it, who might not have the programs or funded programs. Well, Andrew and Jocelyn are thrilled with this milestone that they have been donating, and they've gotten to $2 million of sports equipment donated all around the world. They're thrilled with that. They say that their work isn't done. The organization is still growing, and they plan to start new chapters in different cities, so even more communities can be impacted by their generosity and the generosity of people who donate to the sports equipment, donate the sports equipment in the first place. So I'm sure that you can buy money, or like you can donate money, but it seems to me that this Donate Sport just takes used sports equipment. So I used to be a catcher in softball. I loved being the catcher. It was so much fun. The catcher equipment was ungodly expensive. And I remember I was looking at getting my own equipment. My mom said, I just don't think we're going to be able to do it. So thank God I had a school that was well funded, and they provided me with all kinds of equipment to be the catcher for the softball team. But some schools don't have that, and you have to buy your own equipment, and the catcher equipment, like the shin guards, the chest. I actually forget. There's like a chest guard. There's also like a helmet that you need, a special helmet. But believe me, you need it. There was a story. It wasn't me. It was somebody at on a different opposing softball team. They were the people we were facing, and somebody got hit with the bat. So the batter was up, whacked the ball, threw the bat, and the bat hit the catcher in the back. And then the catcher like passed out. It must have hit them just right. So the equipment was definitely needed for the catchers. And the ambulance came. They wound up being okay. It was totally all right. But they passed out from the blow to the back. And it might have hit them in the head or something like that. But yeah, this is an interesting. I mean, there's so many different charities out there. Now that brings me to a housekeeping thing. Folks, we are raising money for Central Illinois veterans through Hope for the Warriors. This is a national nonprofit that helps Illinois veterans from all branches of the government, from enlisted to deployed. All the donations go to Hope for the Warriors. We've teamed up with CEFQ, Tentac Enterprises, Miller Lite, and Wilbur Group for the 6th annual Seats for Soldiers event. That's this week, the 20th and the 21st. We're going to be out there 36 hours straight. I'm going to be doing my morning show from out there. And we're raising money for Seats for Soldiers. Text the word SEATS to the Jimmy John's text line 77,000. It's a different text line. So text SEATS, SEATS, to 77,000 to be a part of this amazing event. All you have to do is donate $5. That's it. It's like a cup of coffee, folks. Donate $5. And that will get a flag placed on the seat designating a safe seat for a soldier during the summer event. So be sure to check it out. It's on cities929.com. More information for you. All right. I am going to be back here on the morning buzz. I have to tell you about Mike Pence, Mechanical Pencils, the former vice president. He says that it's not his concern. The crime, that's not my concern. The skyrocketing suicide, not my concern. He says the quiet part out loud, and he's actually telling the truth, folks. He doubles down on it. He says it not once, but twice. So we'll be back here on the Morning Buzz. Hey folks, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. If you're watching right now, like, love, share this video out with your normie friends and smash that like button. All we ask is that you smash the like button. We don't ask for donations. We don't try to get you to spend money to listen to the program. We don't do subscription service. We do this all free to you. All you have to do is like the content. So like that, like the video right now. We are going to be talking about with Kevin Woodard from the city's 92.9 newsroom. Olympia High School fire ignites a Tesla whistleblower. Ooh. So he's going to be informing us about Tesla and Solar City and possibly this has to do with the installation of those solar panels on top of the Olympia High School and middle school. So this was a story a while ago of the solar panels catching fire. And there was a solar, I guess, electrician who had to come out, and there was a problem with the inverter panels malfunctioning. So he had to like unplug the inverter panels. And I am not a scientist, folks, so I'm going to do my best to try to explain what these solar panels did to cause the fire. But that's essentially what the story is about, right, Kevin Woodard?
It's close to that. It's a little different, but basically, when we wrote a story about Olympia fire, and I basically wrote a story that my headline was that these solar panels were safe, but I got a call from a guy that we can call an expert, that's for sure, who's saying that when you look at that figure, they're not safe at all. In fact, the figure is so high in his amount that he calls stating that figure is safe being committing arson in itself. So yeah, Stephen Hinks is known nationally as a Tesla whistleblower. He worked with Toyota for a number of years as a quality division manager, and then he moved over to a company called Solar City in 2016. And then that's when Tesla bought this company called Solar City. So that's when he learned that there was a problem with what he calls the connectors. Well, that's what they are, but just to get a little bit detailed, not too much, but we have each solar panel has a connector attached to it. And he learned that there was a problem at that point in time. And when he began to tell his bosses at Tesla about that, they didn't seem to be too concerned. And so what he did was he went on out and he sent a complaint to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Consumer Product Safety Commission. He felt so strongly about it after about 3 years of not being heard. And then he was fired by Tesla for trying to make people aware of a safety concern.
Yeah, and I mean, these things are popping up everywhere. I think Unit 5, there's a school within the district that just recently approved. Now, I don't know if these are going to be the same type of solar panels. I would imagine that they should be doing their due diligence, but they approved them. So I don't know if they did their due diligence. Did they know that this is a problem? I'm going to get into all of that here coming up in just a second. We're going to be back for our radio friends. You're listening to Cities 92.9.
That was a good place to break.
Good morning, folks. This is the Morning Buzz. Now, firefighters, they were called out to this little small central Illinois town. It's called Farmington. Okay. And I was reading the story about a month ago, and I was like, gosh, this sounds so familiar. Why is this like deja vu? Well, there was a solar panel inverter that caused a solar panel field to just catch on fire in Farmington. So the Farmington Community Fire Protection District said on their Facebook page that an inverter panel in the solar panel field was burning, setting fire to some grass. The crews didn't use water to put out the blaze, which is kind of similar to the Olympia High School Middle School fire, where they had the solar panels on the top of the rooftop. They had to use like some sort of chemical extinguisher, and then they eventually had to get like a solar panel technician type guy to get out there and to unplug the inverter and figure out how to get this fire from stop burning. So we've got a story that's about to drop this morning about 10 a.m., folks. 10 a.m. You got to read it. This is a huge story. A Tesla whistleblower comes out and talks about how this Olympia fire could have been started. Joining me here to break it down, you know him, you love him, Kevin Woodard from the Cities 92.9 newsroom. That's Kevin Woodard right over there.
Yeah.
So you talked with this guy from Tesla, and he's a known national solar panel or like a Tesla whistleblower.
Yeah, he's known as a Tesla whistleblower, and he's certainly an expert in the field. So he started working with Toyota and worked there a number of years before he went to work for a company called Solar City. And then that company was built by or bought out by Tesla. And while he was there, his job became looking into safety concerns. And one of them was looking at the connectors that were being purchased from a supplier to be put on the panel. So you've got the connectors coming from one place and the panels from another place, and then Tesla's, installing them, or, as a unit or whatever. So that's what's happened. And he became aware of this problem with the connectors, and he started telling management about it and everything, and they didn't seem too concerned. And later he learned that they'd been aware of the problem for years. So at a point there, after 2 or 3 years of not being heard, he didn't think, he wrote a report and made a formal complaint to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. And then after that, he was treated like an unloyal employee, and he was fired.
Wow. So, question, the panels on top of the Olympia High School Middle School, did you ask this, and what's his name? Stephen
Name is
Hanks?
Stephen Hinks.
Hinks. So did you ask him, hey, what's on top of the Olympia High School, can this be attributed to what you pointed out to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission? Is this the problem that you were concerned about?
Well, he actually contacted me after reading a previous story that we had written, where I had said that according to some people in the industry that it was safe, and the number was quoted was 1 in 10,000, was the chance of there being a fire. And the industry was saying that this is a safe situation.
Mhm.
Well, he says that's so actually high that anyone that quoted that figure and believes that is committing arson themselves, because he knew these connectors were out there. Now, he was aware of the fire because he's following these all across the country, and he invited me to contact him and talk. So we did about an hour interview, mostly so I could just learn all about this and get it all broke down. But if you remember the story we wrote before, and maybe you've heard it on your own, about a number of Walmart fires back in 2016, 17, 18, and it was these connectors that were causing those Walmart fires. And so at that point, Walmart sued Tesla, and then after a while, they decided not to go through with the suit. Well, the reason is they didn't want this continuing to reach the press. They wanted to keep it on the down low. And so there's really hasn't been much talk nationally in well-known media about the fact these connectors are causing all these fires. So he suspects that it's the same connectors.
Wow. And he says here in the story we're going to be publishing that he does in fact believe that this is what likely started the Olympia. And what's so concerning about this, folks, is that it's not going to stop, because we have Unit 5. Now, I don't know what kind of solar panels they approved, and if they are going to have the same problem that our boy Stephen Hinks is worried about here. But it's a possibility, right? I don't know what kind of solar panels they've approved, but you're looking at people negligently using taxpayer money to buy these things without doing their due diligence. There's a whistleblower from Tesla saying that, hey, there is a safety concern, and this isn't just a one-off, right? And it's not, because I just told you about a Farmington solar panel fire, and I know it seems small, but there also appears to be another one. He said the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, so in the
library.
last just year or so, we've had a Boys and Girls Club catch fire, and a library, and even single family homes. Now, the situation may not be all that dire. Eventually, partly thanks to Hink's work, the connector problem was solved. But what we have is a problem here where we've got connectors from 2016 to 2018 that are out in the field, and I don't think anybody really knows where they are. And people certainly have it. There's no recall been sent out.
There's got to be a recall.
There hasn't been a recall sent out, and nobody's even talked about it in any big way like that. And this is what puzzles Mr. Hinks so much. So, places like the Olympia High School, they may have these connectors out there that just all of a sudden tend to break down and create fires. And that's what Mr. Hinks is trying to make people aware of. If you've got a solar panel system you had installed between 2016 and 2018, I strongly urge you to have that system checked to see if you have connectors installed by a company called Amphenol. Amphenol was the supplier of the connectors. And that's the problem. Now, the reason Stephen thinks a couple of reasons Stephen thinks the Olympia fire may be a result of these connectors is, one, he has FOIA material from the school district, and he has received it, and he has maintenance information from the school board that has a picture of it, of not exactly the connectors we're talking about, but some other connectors that are manufactured by Amphenol. So he's pretty sure that Amphenol connectors were used and were part of this.
Wow. Explosive story. We're going to have to cut to break, but Kevin Woodard, thanks so much for joining me here, breaking down that story. That story is going to drop, folks. You're going to want to read it in its entirety at about 10 a.m. That's when that's going to drop on cities929.com. We're going to be back. Kamala Harris was on this episode of, was it a Freudian slip or was it an embarrassing gaffe? Was it a slip up? Was it a Freudian slip? Kamala Harris saying and demanding that the population be reduced. That's in today's episode of Freudian slip or embarrassing gaffe. That's next. Good morning, friends. Thanks so much for joining me here on the live stream. In studio with me, you know him, you love him, Kevin Woodard. Good morning, Kevin. How are you today?
I'm good today. What's that smoke out there if you're at high risk for breathing?
Yeah, it's really bad out there, and I don't smell it so much.
I don't, but people that I just talked with a coworker in my other job I work on, and she's really sensitive to it, and she can just smell it. So be careful if you're someone that has asthma or any other breathing concerns.
So this morning we've been talking about those solar panels. This is a huge story, folks. We have a Tesla whistleblower coming out and saying that, hey, I really think it's likely that there's a problem with these connectors. And that's what's caused the Olympia High School Middle School fire. That's where their entire roof caught on fire. I mean, it was a big plume of smoke. The gymnasium
Yeah, it
was
not only
left
affected the
damaged.
students that had to, go out on the fire drill that day. It messed them up right before the end of the year, and they had activities canceled. And it doesn't affect just the students; it's the parents. And lately, we learned that some of the water damage was done to some of their costumes for their chorale productions, and so it's they got. It didn't destroy the whole school, and it did totally destroy. I think the gym floor may have some issues about it, but it's disrupted the lives of anyone involved with the high school there, and any students and parents. And these fires do this no matter where it is. And I was just speaking, Kat and I were off air, and I was saying the other reason that the gentleman I spoke with believes this may be a result of these connectors is that this solar panels there were installed from 2016 to 2018, and that's exactly when these connectors were installed. So it's right in the right time frame there.
And I was thinking to myself, well, wouldn't the school be like worried about that, or like want some sort of compensation? Like, were they duped because Tesla didn't recall these 2016, 2018 connectors? Did they not know that there was a problem with these types of solar panels? And can they go after a company like Tesla or something to be compensated for things like the chorale costumes, the gym floor, and things like that?
Yeah, and so, Kat, that opens up maybe the next story we write. I didn't get into that detail right now. Hopefully, I'll get to do a follow-up story on it because there's a problem there. When these people sign up for those solar panels, they sign an agreement that they'll go to arbitration.
Let's talk about it here on the radio for our radio friends. Kevin Woodard joining me in studio. This is an explosive story. We have a Tesla whistleblower saying that it's pretty likely that there was a fire caused at the Olympia High School Middle School on the rooftop there where it damaged the gym. The kids had to go and do remote learning. There were some costumes for their chorale concerts that were destroyed. This has a massive effect on the people who are in the Olympia High School district, right? So we were talking about how there's this problem with the 2016, 2018 connectors with these solar panels. And this guy brought it to all kinds of people's attention. His name is Stephen Hinks, and he is a Tesla whistleblower. And he said, there's a big problem here. You guys need to address this, issue some sort of recall. And here's my thing is, wouldn't Olympia High School want to take this to court or get some sort of compensation? Did they know that there was a problem with these? I mean, in 2019, this guy, Stephen Hinks, was making a fuss and saying, hey, there's a problem here with these connectors. We can't be selling these to people. Wouldn't the Olympia High School, Middle School, wouldn't they try to get some sort of compensation from these companies who knew that there was a problem with these electrical connectors I mean, as far back as 2017, I think it is.
Yeah, Kat, we were talking about that with our other audience just now. And one thing we talked about before we went off the air was that Mr. Hinks has photographs of amphenol connectors that were used in some maintenance, that are in some maintenance records that the Olympia School District has. The other thing we didn't quite mention on the air was that the panels that were installed from 2016 to 2018 were the ones that used these bad connectors. And I would say nobody really knows where they are out there. And if you had some work done in that time period, you probably need to have your installation checked. But the thing is, well, why aren't these people suing? Why aren't they, suing this company? And the thing is, when you get these installations done, you sign an agreement that you will go into arbitration. And
so we have to take a quick break. Arbitration. What does that mean? It sounds shady, folks. We're going to unpack it here in the 8 o'clock hour. Plus, we're going to be visiting with Jerry Vogler from the McLean County VA. Stick around. Kevin Woodard joins me. Go to the live stream, folks, if you want to hear our conversation on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're everywhere. Be sure to check it out and subscribe to the channel. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. If you are watching, then go ahead, smash the like button. We are going to be getting to that story. The Kamala Harris should be first on the list, and then Joe Biden next. So we're talking about Kamala Harris. Was it a Freudian slip, or was it an embarrassing gaffe? Now, she says, well, the White House came out very quickly with a statement saying that she did not mean reduction in population, but rather pollution. I guess it kind of fits in that sentence that she used the reduction of population phrase in, but not really. So I don't know if she was thinking about reducing the population and it was just some sort of Freudian slip, or if it really was just that she misspoke and said population instead of pollution. It's all possible. I don't know. But what's concerning is that there are people on the left who believe that reducing the population is the direction we should go in order to achieve cleaner air and cleaner drinking water. So, on this week's episode of Freudian Slip or Embarrassing Gaffe, we have our contestant. She's a San Francisco woman, and she rose to success because she not only checked off one box but two boxes on the Democrat Party's most marginalized bingo card. Marginalized, and then you just okay, she's black, she's woman. Okay. And then she also slept with I think it was a mayor of San Francisco. Pretty sure. Uh, he admitted that, folks. That's not just me saying that. He actually came out and said, yes, I had an affair with Kamala. Now, whether or not that was to get a leg up, I don't know. We'll see. That's still yet to be determined. But point is, she got to where she is because she checked off two boxes instead of just one. So say hello to Vice President Kamala Harris, where she comes out and she says, we need to reduce the population. That's going to be here next. And then Joe Biden's secretary, Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, who I'm shocked is still alive. I'm just going to be honest with you folks. This woman has been like sleeping at the money printer machine for quite some time. She like fell asleep on the button and it's just been printing money, 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 money. She's like, what? Oh, it's 2023 and we've inflated the economy with all this money. But she was actually on hallucinogenic mushrooms at the time when she bowed down to a CCP official. Yeah, it's real. Like it's not fake. She actually went down she went over to Beijing. She went to a casual restaurant. This casual restaurant, I guess, served her hallucinogenic mushrooms. Now, I don't know if she knew she was taking hallucinogenic mushrooms. At the time, she was with all kinds of people, like from the Biden administration, Secret Service, right? You would think that somebody would tell her. Now, she might have taken these of her own free will. So she took 4 portions of these hallucinogenic mushrooms and she ate them. And there's been renowned doctors and professors who have talked to CNN, of course, and they have actually said people who take just 1 portion can hallucinate for 3 days. So she was on a trip, not just to China, but she took 2 trips that day. So she was on a trip and it was very controversial, this video of her. She like bows not once, not twice, but 3 times. She like literally bows before the CCP official, which is big deal because I don't think anybody really in America has done that. I think Joe Biden maybe has done it once or twice, but we'll chalk that up to dementia. And it like that's a big deal because it shows weakness. And I don't think anybody has really ever bowed down before another like this is an adversary. This isn't I wouldn't say China is like a best friend of ours. Um so yeah, big deal. We had somebody from the George W. Bush administration. He was a senior advisor coming out and saying it looked like she just got called into the principal's office and that China really likes that. They love when you act like that. So that's the concern. So we're going to get to all of that. Look, Janet Yellen, she just loves the taste of hallucinogenic mushrooms. Okay. She likes the taste, and Hunter Biden, he likes the smell of cocaine. Okay. So stop it with the drug addicts. Stop it. They are not drug addicts. Okay. And they don't take drugs for enjoyment. They just like the taste and smell of drugs. Okay. So stop it with that. We're going to be back talking with Kevin Woodard and Jerry Vogler from the McLean County Veterans. You're listening to Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Be sure to smash the like button. Smash it. I see you. I see you watching. Why aren't you smashing the like? Are you worried that your boss is going to see that you liked this video and that they're going to give you crap at work? Oh, you're a conservative? You liked this video I saw. Just do it, okay? I know you got the cojones. Smash the like button. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz, and you won't believe it. Janet Yellen. Yeah, she's still alive. She's 76 years old. Imagine your grandmother taking hallucinogenic mushrooms. Yeah, so that's the scene that is in your head now. Now that actually happened. Biden's secretary, Treasury Secretary, the woman who, fell asleep on the button that prints the money for the United States, that's her. So she prints all of the money, inflates the economy. She's um, n- now this has come out that she has eaten hallucinogenic mushrooms prior to this very controversial bowing before the Chinese vice premier. So this is a CCP official, and she's on tape bowing not once, not twice, but 3 times before a CCP official. Whoa. And a little bit later, we will be talking about Kamala Harris, how she's demanding that the population be reduced in the name of climate change because she wants to have cleaner drinking water and cleaner air. The air isn't really all that clean today, folks. So stay safe out there. The air is thick with smoke. These Canadian wildfires, I just hated. I just wanted to go away. We knew that it wasn't going to go away because we talked with John Weatherby, our meteorologist, and he explained how these fires are happening at a different time period when the jet streams are making it favorable to come down to Illinois. I don't know. The smell isn't as bad for me today. A couple of weeks ago, it was like a sulfur smell in the air. Now, some people said that that was because there was some sort of oil refinery that had a spill in Indiana, which I didn't quite believe. I was like, how did it drift all the way over here? I don't know. I'm not a meteorologist. I don't know. I'd have to drive up to Canada, and believe me, folks, I don't want to go to Canada. I don't think anybody really does to try to find out if these wildfires are still burning. But yeah, they're all the smoke is from the wildfires. So stay safe out there. I know that I made the mistake of going out on a run when it was smoky like this, and I could not talk the next day. My throat burned so bad I couldn't even speak, and that's a problem for me. In case you didn't notice, this is a radio show. Cities 92.9, The Morning Buzz. So we're going to get to all of that here coming up on The Morning Buzz. But first, before we took the break, we were talking with Kevin Woodard from the Cities 92.9 newsroom. And I was asking, we have a problem with the Olympia High School, middle school solar panels. They caught fire. There was water damage done to the gymnasium. The kids had to go remote learn. We know the story. The solar panel inverter was bad, it malfunctioned. They had to have a solar electrician come out and disconnect it. And now we have a Tesla whistleblower saying that, yeah, I've been talking about these connectors and how they're bad for quite some time. And they fired me because I was bringing this issue before all kinds of different agencies. And he was trying to make this issue known that there's a problem with these connectors. But there's something even more shady going on, and that's called arbitration. So I was asking, hey, why can't Olympia High School, middle school get some sort of compensation, right? They were duped. They were given these solar panels, sold these solar panels, and apparently they have an issue with the connectors that caused them to ignite and set fire to an entire rooftop of a school, a big problem. Can there be somebody that they go after in court for selling them something that they knew back in 2017 was an issue? And Kevin Woodard was telling me something about arbitration. Break that down for us, Kevin Woodard.
Yeah, so arbitration is when you agree through a type of a legal agreement that before suing someone, you will go into what's called arbitration. And that means you're going to sit down with the party you're having a problem with and your attorneys and their attorneys, and you're going to go before an arbitrator. So it's the arbitrator doesn't really act, sort of acts like a judge, but he's also trying to help you reach some agreement between the parties. So this happens a lot, and in a lot of business situations, you will at some point agree to go to arbitration before taking somebody else to court. And that's the problem with these installations. People are signing these agreements to have these installations made, and as a part of that, they're agreeing that they'll go to arbitration. So when you get to arbitration, who are the parties? Well, in this case, Amphenol made the connectors. A company named Ameresco does the installations. A company named Ginkgo Solar actually manufactures the panel. And then you've got Tesla that's putting all these things together and installing them. So you've got, right, 4 parties right there, 4 big companies that are involved. And guess who's writing the fire report for what caused the fire?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Who is it?
These are the people that are investigating the fire.
All of them?
These groups are the ones you've agreed to sit down, with the school district and in these groups to go through this arbitration. So this is the study that's being done, probably by another company. They'll go hire some engineer to do the study, and then he'll come back with what he thinks caused the fire. But
that engineer is working on behalf of the company that sold the solar panels
of this
in the first
group,
place.
yes.
That's some shady stuff. That's some real shady
So,
stuff.
I mean, when you talk to the fire chief and he says he's waiting on the report, this is the report he's working on. It's not being investigated by any federal agency. It's not being investigated by any state agency or county agency or the
somebody who's
school district
nonpartisan,
themselves.
right? Somebody who's doesn't have skin in the game.
Right.
Like, they have skin in the game here, folks, if they are found to be the reason why this fire started.
So these guys are all
be...
going to, they may point the finger at each other, but they don't have they can't do much about the other guy.
And I know people are like, Kat, you're exaggerating, but am I? Because these are kids. There's kids who are learning in this environment. And I mean, yes, the fire didn't take down the entire school, but what if it did? Right? They're lucky that they got this solar electrician to get out there and disconnect. I mean, because they couldn't even put out the fire with water. And that has happened in several places. I talked about a place in Farmington, Central Illinois. There was a grass fire, and it just took this entire solar panel field out, and it was burning. And it was a big fire, right? And it's like they had to use a dry chemical extinguisher, because the water wouldn't put it out, because there's something going on. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but water won't put out these fires. And fire departments, like, they go out there, they're thinking that they can use water. They can't. They need a solar panel electrician to come out to disconnect this inverter. I mean, and these are children. Do you want that on your hands? Do you want that on your hands where an entire school just bursts into flames? And we're looking at Unit 5 approving these now. Yeah. And I don't know what ones they're approving. They might have better luck because they might not have the 2016, 2018. Those are the problematic connectors.
Yeah.
But they still might, because there hasn't been a recall issued. So they might get stuck with a 2018 connector panel that has the problem with it. Big problem. But Kevin Woodard, thanks so much for joining me here in studio. I so do appreciate. Give Kevin Woodard some love. He's got an email out on our website. If you click on his name, just say thanks. Thanks for investigating this story. And that story is going to drop today on cities929.com. Moving on, folks. We are going to be talking with Jerry Vogler from the McLean County VA. I love when he joins me here for the Veterans Corner every Monday morning at around 8 a.m. Jerry Vogler, today we're talking about some VA-related disability claim scams. So the most prominent VA-related scam involves VA benefit claim coaches. So what does that mean, and what should people be looking out for if they're a veteran?
Well, there have been a number of scams pointed toward veterans, especially the older veterans. For probably the last 10 or 15 years, it's gotten really intense. A lot of times it was just a scam with an individual. However, this coach's approach usually starts out with some type of a contact, usually by mail, with a glossy brochure that says, you were serving in such and such place during such and such time, and you were probably exposed or had some type of an injury that you could claim disability for under the VA rules. Come to our seminar, and we'll talk about it. And we'll show you how to make this wonderful claim that will get you lots of money. And what they do is they'll hold a seminar, similar to the kind of seminars or work sessions that we older citizens get all the time in the mail about. Come to such and such restaurant and will tell you how to make yourself rich with annuities and that sort of thing. Free meal and so forth. Well, these coaches clinics are basically the same thing, and they walk a very tight line between being legal and illegal. The VA has a very specific process in which you have to go in order to be able to be certified and write claims for other people. Now, anybody can write a claim for VA disability. That, can sit down and read and write. However, a lot of times with a VA claim, as any other type of claim, it's not so much what you say, but how you say it, using the proper nomenclature and making sure the details are there. That's what these seminars and so forth are. They usually incorporate a meeting with maybe a couple dozen or maybe up to 100 people, in which a lecture is given for 4, 5, 6 hours, and they serve you lunch. And then a set of videos and written material. And at the end of the seminar, you're supposed to be able to take this material home and sit down and write a wonderful claim for disability compensation. They also will actually perform the written function for you to get a claim started. But that's rare because most of these coaches are not certified with the VA. The VA, you have to take a course. It's usually several $100s to take the course. And then you have to take a certification test with the VA directly. And that just gets you to the point where you can file claims. What these do is they set up a person that in order to get into these seminars, there's usually an upfront cost, which if too exorbitant, well, if you put so much down, then when we actually complete the course or session, then you'll pay the rest of it on a monthly basis. It's very, very big in Texas right now, but it's spreading across the country. In fact, I believe Texas has at least 3 lawsuits from the state of Texas to declare these sessions to be illegal. But it's all about coaching rather than completing the claims. If they actually fill the claim out, then they're in violation of the law. But if they just give you the information and prompt you on how to do it, then it's legal from their standpoint, and they take the money and put it in their pocket. So that's the latest scam, and it could involve anybody that was in the military rather than just target groups like older veterans and so forth. Veterans have a tendency not to file claims on their own, and therefore when they see something like this, they're stimulated to maybe I can do this and get it done. In the base of this whole thing is one statement, and that is a veteran never, and I want to stress never, has to pay for someone to file a claim for service-connected disability compensation. And if whoever's going to fill that claim out for you wants to charge you, stop the process and visit the veteran service officer that's been accredited with the Legion, VFW, DAV, AMVETS, or with the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs. Because then you're not going to get charged, and you're going to get people that are certified and know what they're doing.
All right. Well, I also wanted to get to a question here, Jerry Vogler, from the McLean County VA. He says, my father is a Vietnam veteran who has been diagnosed with dementia. He saw combat in Vietnam and has been treated for PTSD by the VA. He has a VA service-connected disability rating of 40%. Could a claim for an upgrade in his rating be filed for his dementia? Can you break that down for what that means, and maybe even the disability rating? What does that mean?
Well, disability rating can be 0 to 100%, and each one of those ratings has a different monetary compensation that's paid. For instance, at 0%, there's no money involved, but it opens up the door to get a VA medical card if you don't have one. 100% rating right now is about $3,400 a month. Plus additional dollars for compensation if the veteran has dependents. So that's kind of how the rating system works. Every time you file a claim, let's say you file a claim and got 40%, that means there's only 60% of you left. And if you file a claim on something else, then that 60% of that's left has to be applied against the rating that's given. And let's say there's a 10% additional rating. Well, 10% of 60% is only 6. And that means that there would be no additional compensation based on that additional claim, because the VA only raised the compensation payments in 10% increments. So that's kind of how that works. On the question of dementia, there is no standalone dementia diagnosis that has any value toward filing a claim for service-connected disability. But if it is connected to post-traumatic stress disorder, then that's a possibility, because stressors of that type can lead to a variety of different things that are disabling, such as multiple sclerosis because of the stress and so forth, as well as certain cases of dementia. This is a type of situation, however, it's fairly rare right now, and I would really encourage people to go down and talk to the veteran service officer at the IDVA, or better yet, probably talk to an attorney that specializes in VA compensation cases, in order to be able to tie that dementia into post-traumatic stress and some other stressors like that. It's pretty involved, pretty intense, and not something that regular veteran service officers are going to handle every day.
Awesome. All right. Well, we do have to cut to break, but I do want to highlight Hope for the Warriors. There is an event out at the Corn Crib. It starts at 6 a.m. July 20th, but you can donate right now by texting SEATS, SEATS, to our Jimmy John's text line. That's 77,000. 77,000. Text the word SEATS, SEATS, 77,000. Thoughts on Hope for Warriors, Jerry Vogler?
We'll definitely be there.
Awesome. Great. I'm
I'm not
excited.
sure I'll be there. I'm not sure I'll be there at 6 in the morning, but I will be there.
Great. Can't wait to see you out at the Corn Crib. It's where we broadcast for 36 hours straight, and we try to help those who have served our country through the nonprofit organization called Hope for the Warriors. So thanks so much, Jerry, for joining me here on this edition of Veterans Corner.
Have a great day and stay out of the smoke.
Yeah, stay out of the smoke. Oh man, it's smoky out there, folks. And I'm telling you, the smoke in my eyes, like it's like smoky enough to where I'm like, is this just my eyes playing tricks on me? Stay safe out there. And we've talked before with John Weatherby, and he says that the Canadian wildfires usually don't start this early, and they are starting at a different time this year. That's why we're starting to see this jet stream take all that wildfire down to the state of Illinois. We're going to be back, and we're going to talk about Kamala Harris. Was it a Freudian slip, or was it an embarrassing gaffe? She says and demands, actually, the population needs to be reduced in the name of climate change. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. I so do appreciate it. If you're watching right now, go ahead, smash that like button. And as always, we're putting on the Hope for the Warriors event through Great Plains Media. It's our 6th annual one. We teamed up with CEFCU, Tentech Enterprises, Miller Lite, and Wilbur Group, and we're gearing up for the 6th annual Seats for Soldiers to try to support local veterans here. We teamed up with a national nonprofit. They're called Hope for the Warriors, and they help out Central Illinois veterans from all branches of the military, from enlisted to deployed. All donations go to Hope for the Warriors. So you can text your donation at SEATS, SEATS, to 77,000. Just text that word to the Jimmy John's text line and be a part of this amazing event. Special thanks to our sponsors, McLean County Asphalt, Tax and Accounting Plus, Ace Hardware, and the Four Seasons Health Club. We're going to be out there until July 21st at 6 p.m. right before the Corn Belters home game. Be a part of the amazing event. Come on out, make a donation. $5 gets you a flag on the seat designating a saved seat for a soldier during this event. Donations at $30 are eligible for a commemorative tumbler. I think we have about 10 tumblers out there. $50 will get you a t-shirt. So yeah, Hope for the Warriors. They are a 4-star rated charity from Charity Navigator, helping to provide full cycle of care to restore self, family, and hope to post 9/11 service members, their families, and families of the fallen. So you can find out more at our website. That's cities929.com. So do appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, we're going to get to Kamala Harris demanding that the population be reduced because, yeah, these people are crazy. So she is saying eh, that the population needs to be reduced. But then the White House comes out and says that she did not mean to say that. And they were quick to clean it up. And they claimed that she meant to say pollution instead of population. So this is from the whitehouse.gov. They say, when we invest, this is the transcript from Kamala Harris, when we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce pollution, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water. That's what the White House is saying that Kamala meant to say, pollution. Um, what what my question is, I don't know, maybe she was thinking about population at the time. It's a very common opinion of the left. So I used to have a teacher, a middle school teacher, who was obsessed with Bill Nye. Bill Nye, who is a former children's entertainer, the media claims is a climate expert. They claim that Bill Nye is a climate expert. At one point, he has praised Planned Parenthood for their contributions to the field of population control. So there's Bill Nye saying that on record. That's what the left, that's their opinion. People who have too many children, typically more than two, are targets of progressive hate and intolerance. Babies are bad for the earth. That's their catchphrase. Those are the words that are said out loud by leftists. Leftists and the media don't hide their agenda or beliefs when it comes to that. Asa Hutchinson, do you know who this is? I didn't know. I'm going to be honest. I did not know who this was. Asa Hutchinson is, I guess, a GOP presidential candidate. He was at the Family Leadership Conference in Iowa, and he was talked about with Tucker Carlson. This is an Iowa caucus, major event before the Iowa caucus, or for the Iowa caucus. Now, most candidates, they sat down and answered questions from Tucker Carlson. Donald Trump did not. Now, Tucker Carlson asked this guy Hutchinson about how he vetoed a bill back in 2021 as the governor of Arkansas. So this bill would have banned genital mutilation, surgery for minors, and permanent life-altering puberty blockers for minors. And the way Tucker Carlson just annihilates, like, get tucked, Hutchinson. The way he goes about this is absolutely incredible. I do also want to play this bit from Vivek Ramaswamy. I think that he should be the vice presidential candidate. I think he's going to pass up Ron DeSantis, and here's why. This clip, in and of itself, I mean, he is willing to talk about censorship. He's willing to say what actually went down when it comes to January 6th. I hope that he becomes the VP to Trump, and then I hope then he becomes president in 2028 and 2032. He's the man for your next generation here. The straw polls were in. We had Trump dominating the poll at the TPUSA Action Summit. It was 85% Vivek, 51% of the votes ahead of DeSantis and Tim Scott. Carrie Lake won the VP vote for 30%, followed by Byron Donalds with 24%, and Vivek with 22%. So 95.8 oppose U.S. involvement in Ukraine. That's a lot of folks. 89% of people in this poll support the GOP embracing early voting and vote chasing. 77% of respondents say that they do not plan to donate to the RNC. Coming up, we're going to be talking about Kamala Harris. And this episode of Was It a Freudian Slip or an Embarrassing Gaffe? We have a contestant. She's from San Francisco. She's a woman who rose to success by checking off not one, but two boxes of the Democrat Party's most marginalized bingo cards. So they've got a little bingo card, and on each square, they have different boxes you can check off. And she checks off woman, she checks off black. And that's why she rose to success, because she's a diversity hire, everyone. Say hello to Vice President Kamala Harris, who says, actually demands that we reduce the population. Whoa. Yes, we're going to get to that. Tucker Carlson straight up destroying this GOP presidential candidate over one of the biggest issues in our country, genital mutilation and puberty blockers. He pressed this guy, Asa Hutchinson, and you're like, Kat, who's that? Why do I care? I guess he's a GOP presidential candidate, but I love what Tucker Carlson had to say here about genital mutilation and puberty blockers, and about how this Arkansas governor, who was a former Arkansas governor, now running for the GOP president, he didn't vote for this bill that would have banned genital mutilation and puberty blockers, like forever altering puberty blockers. He didn't sign the bill, and Tucker Carlson pressed him on it. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. But first, did y'all know that today is National Get the Dog Out of the House Day? A good day to make amends. Get the dog out of the house day. A good day to make amends. So what's something you need to get out of the doghouse for, gentlemen? How long have you been in the doghouse for this thing? So today is a good day to make amends. Now I'm speaking to the ladies too, right? This is how you get out of the doghouse with somebody, and you just apologize. Today is also a global hug your kids day. Shouldn't this be every day? I don't know. I feel like you should always hug your kids. Real quick, I came across this. I thought this was funny. 5 of the most cuddly dog breeds. A pug is number 2. I saw that and I was like, are you kidding me right now? A pug? I don't like those things. They look ugly. That's just my opinion. I'm sorry if that offends you, but in my opinion, pugs are the ugliest dog that you could get. Golden Retriever, number 1. Pug, number 2. Labrador Retriever is number 3. Great Dane is number 4. And English Bulldogs are number 5. I'm surprised German Shepherds did not make the list. I am a big German Shepherd gal. I love German Shepherds. They're cute, they're cuddly, and they protect. They protect you. I'm a big proponent of big dogs serve a big purpose, and that's protection. Also, one thing that I wanted to talk about was this story: how to open a soda can. So there's this popular TikToker, I guess, and he's blowing the minds of the people on TikTok for this clever hack of opening a can of soda by using another can of soda. So his name is Jordan, and he has showed his 10 million followers how to pop a soda can without having to use your fingers and risking your nicely manicured fingernails. Ladies, right? If you got fingernails, you might pop off your fingernail if you try to open a can, soda can. So he explains that the bottom of the soda can be used, can use, or can the bottom of the soda can is purposely designed with a circular ridge, so that if you place it on top of another can, you can use it to pull back the tab of the and open different can. So he says that's why the cans stack so perfectly on top of each other, and he says that that's the purpose of the design. This TikToker, I've never tried that in my life. Now I do know how to open like a beer bottle on the edge of a table. You take the lip of the beer bottle top and you put it on the edge, the very edge of the table, and then you smash down on, and with your palm, you smash down on the bottle tab, and usually it pops open. I'm not great at it. I do have a bottle opener on my keychain, just in case. All right, now let's get to Kamala Harris, shall we? So Kamala Harris, she slipped up, I think. I think it was a Freudian slip. Maybe it was just a gaffe and she actually misspoke Let's take a listen to Kamala Harris here on the Morning Buzz. As always, I'm live in studio. You can like, love, share, subscribe the video out with your normie friends. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram. Go find me and give us a follow. Let's take a listen to Kamala. Here we go.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water. When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Yes,
when we invest in
she said the quiet part out loud, folks. And look, maybe she was thinking population. The White House has come out and they have tried to clean this up very quickly, I might add. And they tried to claim that she meant to say pollution, reduce pollution. So the official transcript that the White House put out there says, when we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce pollution, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water. Maybe she was thinking population instead of pollution. This is a common opinion on the left. Now, I used to have a middle school teacher who was obsessed with Bill Nye and would show Bill Nye videos on a loop. Now, Bill Nye, he's a former children's entertainer that the media tries to claim is some sort of climate expert. He's not. Newsflash. Now, Bill Nye has praised Planned Parenthood on record for their, quote, contributions to the field of population control. People who have too many children, typically if you've got more than one or more than two, you are a target of the progressive hate and intolerance. They believe babies are bad for the earth. These are the words that they say out loud. Leftists in the media, they no longer hide their agenda or their beliefs. I do have to take a break. When we come back, let's talk about Tucker Carlson going after Asa Hutchinson. I love this. You're like, wait a cat, I don't get it. What's an Asa Hutchinson? What is that? Well, if you saw a viral photo this week of a presidential candidate speaking in a room of 4 people, just 4 of them, that's Asa. That's Asa Hutchinson. He's a GOP presidential candidate. So this isn't really necessary about his primary chances because he has no chance, but it's more about his answer. This is the worst answer ever that I've heard from a presidential candidate give ever. Maybe Mike Pence's answer about crime in cities not being his concern is worse than this, but I've got all of that and more ahead for you on the Morning Buzz. Hey folks, thanks so much for tuning in. We are going to be talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's tune in and see here what's going on as far as the news today. Tucker Carlson makes a deal with Public Square for his new Twitter show. So that's really cool. Public Square is pretty cool organization where if you have a conservative owned business of any kind, you can put it on Public Square and people will go and they shop that app, and it promotes itself as a starting point for conservatives to address environmental, social, and governance policies. It's a key player in the emerging parallel economy. So Tucker Carlson's show on Twitter has landed its first advertiser, which is Public Square. So after Carlson left Fox News in late April, he's hosted this show on Twitter to the tune of millions of viewers. A lot of people on the left, trolls, right? They'll sit there and they'll say, Carlson, none of his viewers watch him anymore because he's on Twitter and they won't get on Twitter. Okay, what are you talking about? Because this guy is pulling in millions, like 7 million, 9 million average people watching these videos. So Tucker Carlson just signed a deal with Public Square. So that's going to be exciting for him. I think that he is in the talks right now of getting his own media company, probably similar to that of a Blaze Media. So DeSantis, the campaign has fired around a dozen staffers. Wow, that's a lot of, and the campaign manager is reportedly in the hot seat. So DeSantis is worried. That's what you need to know about that. He has fired almost a dozen staffers across several departments, and it is reported that more are expected as the campaign looks to rein in spending. So they're trying to get a handle on their spending, according to NBC News. Financial reports show that the campaign has more staff than any other Republican presidential candidate, with 92 people listed. So, despite bringing in $20 million in the first 6 weeks of his campaign, DeSantis only has $12 million in the bank, and most of his donors are ineligible to donate anymore because they gave the maximum legal amount. So he's got big donors, lots of money, and people always say that money wins campaigns. Not anymore. This is a grassroots movement, and people are starting to see what this is. Um, the more and more I think about it, and the more he's out there, and I watch Ron DeSantis's interview with Tucker Carlson, it wasn't bad. But when he was asked the question about Ukraine, he was kind of floppy on it. If that's a word I can use. He was kind of floppy. And what I didn't like what Ron DeSantis said in that interview was that he goes, the United States shouldn't be giving resources to Ukraine. He said that Europe should be. He said it's in their backyard. NATO should be, working out deals with Ukraine and blah, blah, blah. And he said that Europe should be giving. That wasn't a call for peace. And that's what concerns me. You're okay with Europe funneling money and fueling a war where Ukrainians are dying by the thousands every day, and Ukrainian Christians are dying. Tucker Carlson talked about that with Mike Pence. And Ron DeSantis, what he did was say that, yeah, it should be on Europe to, fuel the war. He didn't say that the war should stop. And that's what's concerning to me. Donald Trump, um, a lot of other, honestly, I think it's just Donald Trump at this point. There have not been a whole lot of Republicans that have come out and who have said we should not be fighting. There should not be fighting going on in Ukraine over this territorial dispute. Um, with Russia, there needs to be peace talks. There needs to be negotiations made. And that's what I would want a president to do if he were to get in there right away, is to stop the fighting. I don't care if, I get that people are opposed to the United States funding Ukraine. I'm opposed to anybody funding Ukraine. I'm opposed to war. I don't know about you, Ron, but I'm opposed to it. My concern with Europe funneling money into Ukraine versus us is that we could be funneling money to Europe for other different things, right? We could be working with Europe on other things where we start giving them money, but then in turn, they start putting that money into Ukraine. Um, so that would just essentially be washing our money. And still very problematic. So he was very soft on Ukraine and on foreign policy. Ron DeSantis was at this Leadership Family Institute. We're going to be back in just about 30 seconds. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Now, I'm sure you've seen all of the clips coming out of the Family Leadership Conference in Iowa. Now, that was the first major event for the Iowa caucus. Most candidates sat down to answer questions from Tucker Carlson. Tucker, he was asking Asa Hutchinson, and I know you're tuning in and you're like, wait a second. A few of you were like, I don't get it, Kat. What's an Asa Hutchinson? Well, that's a person, and you might have seen him in this viral photo this past week. He's a presidential candidate speaking to a room of 4 people. That's Asa Hutchinson. So it's not so much that this guy has any kind of chance at winning the primary. It's more so about this answer that he gave Tucker Carlson when it came to Tucker asking about him vetoing this bill as a governor in 2021 that would have banned genital mutilation surgery and prescribing permanently life altering hormones to children. So let's take a listen to this clip. Here we go.
There should not be any confusion on your gender. But if there is confusion, then parents ought to be the one that guides the children. That to me is an important fundamental principle. Now, obviously, you could take it too far, and if there would have been a bill that said you should not ever have transgender surgery as a minor, I would sign that in a minute, because no parent should be able to consent to that permanent change. But this bill did go too far. It was unconstitutional. It interfered with parents. And so I sided with parents on that bill in managing the most sensitive issue that a parent can face. And I believe in a limited role of government. And so, if I don't think that California ought to be able to tell parents, you need to have gender affirming care for the children. The government should not do that. And in the same way, let's keep the government out of it unless it's that extreme case, and let's let parents guide the children. I stand with parents.
So, and amen for standing with parents, and I think everyone in the room would agree with that. But the reason I asked the question was not to bring up a sore subject, which I know that it is, but to ask if in the subsequent 2 years, you had said that you drew the line at castration of physical altercation of a child's body because it's permanent. But in the subsequent 2 years, I think we've learned that hormone therapy for prepubescent children is permanent. It changes the bone structure, it changes the brain of the child. A lot of people believe, including me, that it destroys the child's life, but it is permanent. It's not reversible. So given that and the standard you just...
So there you have it, folks. Tucker Carlson just completely destroying this guy. Like, he sits there and he's like, he goes, oh, yeah, I don't think it's the role of, this is government overreach. It's not the role of the government to yakety schmackety, but in a perfect world, sure. All right, the government shouldn't be involved. But we live in 2023 where Democrats are supporting taking your children away from you if you don't affirm them into their circus of going back and forth on whether or not they're a boy or a girl. They'll take your kids away from you if you don't affirm that. That's what we're dealing with in 2023. Plus, we have schools who encourage children to hide the fact that they're undergoing these permanent transitions from their parents. We need leaders who are going to fight and push back on this nonsense. 309-451-9299. Look, GOP primary voters have various opinions on what the GOP is now versus what it was versus what it is never going back to being again. All kinds of different opinions about what the party, what the Republican Party stands for. If there's one thing that we can all agree on, it's that the party that virtue signals about tax cuts and does very little else is dead. Okay. The grand old party is dead. Vote Republican because we do tax cuts and we don't do much of anything else. That's dead. That's old news. No one told Asa Hutchinson about this before he decided to run for president, obviously, because there's a lot of issues that concern parents when it comes to this genital mutilation, puberty blockers in schools being having participation in this and encouraging children to transition. Okay, do want to get to Janet Yellen. Man, the show is just whizzing by. I want to get to Janet Yellen because she was taking hallucinogenic mushrooms. Yeah. Mushrooms. That's our U.S. Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen. She took hallucinogenic mushrooms. She took more than just one trip, folks, in her recent visit to China. She took 2 trips. So we've got mushrooms, Janet Yellen eating mushrooms, hallucinogenic mushrooms. Then we also have Joe Biden sniffing coke. Okay. That's America. We'll be back. All right, folks. So here's something that I want to talk a little bit about. Tucker Carlson is roasting. I mean, he's had a busy couple of days, but he's roasting Chris Christie because Chris Christie refused to sit down and explain his views on Ukraine. That's all that he asked Chris Christie to do. He refused. You hate to think that Chris Christie is a blustery coward who plays the tough guy with ABC, but won't answer the real questions. So he talks about Chris Christie working with ABC, Greg, what's his name? Greg Stephanopoulos, I guess is his name. And, or George Stephanopoulos, sorry. And he went on there and he was sitting there trying to say that Republicans who are against sending aid to Ukraine, um, he says, quote, if the Chinese watch us back away from Ukraine, as Tucker Carlson and others would advocate, believe me, the next move will be Taiwan. So Republicans call for ending aid to Ukraine. Chris Christie is in the hot seat. Tucker Carlson calling him out for not wanting to sit down and talk with him at this leadership conference in Iowa. Now, Tucker Carlson, like I said, has had a busy couple of days of these GOP political candidates on fire. Like he has just been setting them on fire, folks, and destroying them. No one is sure of Mike Pence's whereabouts after Tucker's just completely shattered him on stage when he got Mike Pence to admit that he doesn't care and it's not his concern that U.S. cities are riddled with crime and that the suicide rate is up here in the United States. So I'm going to play this here coming up for us in just a little bit, this clip from Chris Christie. But Tucker Carlson is not having it. I don't like Chris Christie at all. Oh, hey, good morning. Tucker Carlson. He's had a busy couple of days. You're listening to the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. Tucker Carlson has been setting GOP political candidates and their careers on fire. No one is sure of Mike Pence's whereabouts, but Tucker Carlson just totally dismantled this guy live on stage. I'm not sure where he's at, but Mike Pence admitted that he didn't care about you and that American cities are not his concern when he was asked, hey, why are we sending money to Ukraine and we're not taking care of people here in our own country? Now, Chris Christie is out there. He refused to sit down with Tucker Carlson at this conference. And this is what he's saying with the friendly ABC, George Stephanopoulos. Here we go.
Republican candidate for president, Chris Christie. Chris, thanks for coming in today. I want to talk about the broader race. But first, you weren't in Iowa. You weren't at the Tucker Carlson forum. But if you were being pressed on Ukraine like that, how would you have responded?
I would have said, you've always been wrong about this, Tucker, and you're still wrong. That, in fact, what's going on, George, is that this is a proxy war with China. The Chinese are funding the Russian war by buying Russian oil. They're coordinating with the Iranians to provide lethal weapons to the Russian army. And we could decide when to have this conflict. Right now, the Ukrainians are willing to fight this fight for themselves if they have our support to be able to win it. If the Chinese watch us back away from Ukraine, as Tucker Carlson and others would advocate, believe me, the next move will be Taiwan.
He was getting standing ovations. You don't think that's a big sell in the Republican Party?
I don't. And I'll tell you, as I travel around, George, look, I'm not saying there's not some division in the party. There is. That's obvious. But I still absolutely believe, both from what I've seen in polling and what I'm experiencing anecdotally, that a majority of Republicans want us to be supporting Ukraine because those folks are fighting for their own freedom, their own liberty, and they're degrading the Russian.
Oh, no. So Tucker Carlson, of course, naturally calls out Chris Christie for being a big, fat, scaredy cat to debate him on Ukraine. Right. But he says this in nicer words. So he takes to Twitter and he says, sounds like you could have used a longer conversation. We just asked Governor Chris Christie to sit down and explain his views on Ukraine, and he refused. You hate to think that a guy like Chris Christie is a blustery coward who plays the tough guy with the people at ABC, but won't answer the real questions. But who knows? We hope he reconsiders. So he actually asked Chris Christie to explain himself and his position on Ukraine, and he refused. That's going to do it for us here on the Morning Buzz. You guys have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. I love you.